they talking real loud. Spreading no lie, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. With my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no lie, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. With my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow.
I'm not going to call P. Diddy a bitch. 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 P. Diddy a bitch.
Sean Combs is a bitch. Yeah. Sean Combs is a bitch. They bitches too. Sean Combs is a bitch. Yeah. Sean Combs is a bitch. Yeah.
You don't hit women when you're a man. You don't hit women when you're a man. P. Diddy a bitch. 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 P. Diddy a bitch.
Sean Combs is a bitch. Yeah.
I'm not going to call P. Diddy a bitch or any other name like that. But I ain't gonna stop anybody else from doing it. I'm not gonna malign them. P. Diddy a bitch. 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 P. Diddy.
All right. Hello, everyone. Grand Rising. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. With that all being said, let's have a brief word from my sponsor before we get started. Everybody hit that like button. All right, here we go.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. All right, hello, Elizabeth, Claudette, Nessie X, AJ, T. Randall, Vino X is here. All right, the Inkwell, Nubian Cutie, Buckhorst DC's Nefarious Self is here. Deronda. All right, let's get into it. I see you, Sandra, DJ Big Six. All right, T. Santiago. Okay, so let's get into it. Everybody come in, hitting the like button. Thank you. That's the least you can do. Okay. So let's get ready for it. Shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen. And a big shout out to my moderators who put in work. Okay. So as we know, today is day 2 for the testimony of David James, who got on the stand yesterday. And as soon as he got on the stand, he got very emotional. Okay, like he was about to cry, according to my source. So he's going to continue with his testimony today. And so let me just briefly check and see if there's any updates thus far. And then we're going to talk about why Diddy is done. Okay, Diddy's done. I was literally doing my research last night. And Diddy's just done. Okay, please pay attention. And if you missed the broadcast last night and you didn't see the S workers, which I'm sure everybody knows by now because it's all over the internet, okay, you can check that video out. But Diddy's out of here, folks. But here's the thing. Even if convicted, there's a possibility he could get his conviction overturned. I kept telling y'all about this prior bad acts, and guess what? Now Mark Agnifilo has said something about prior bad acts. He's voiced concerns about it. He basically said, now this case is turning into a bad acts free-for-all. Okay, I told you guys they shouldn't have let Don Richard testify. That was not the right thing to do as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, I'm going to look for these updates, and when I'm done, we're going to go over exactly all of the elements that need to be proven for Diddy to be convicted of this RICO. Guess what? He meets all the requirements, okay? So let's get into it. Let's get into it. Let me see what we have here. Okay, this is from 18 minutes ago with Inner City Press. I am going to, looks like I don't have to go to Costa Rica after all, Diddy, you old nefarious bitch. Okay, let's get into it. Hold on.
Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse. Today, Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. Now, we're going back in for the U.S. versus Sean Combs trial, day 7. Day 7, we're with the personal assistant on the stand. The chef is coming up, also the mother of Cassie Ventura. Now, we're covering in great detail, and you can find it on various platforms, and including we did a week 1 ebook that's available on Google Play. You can find it. But yesterday, in terms of the procedure and the openness of the trial, we have this development to report. Last week on Thursday, I filed into the docket a letter to say that too much is not going into the docket, that every morning the lawyers come in and say what we filed overnight, Your Honor, and he issues rulings. Well, the way it works is that these are judicial documents. Anything that's submitted to a judge, particularly in a criminal case, but even in civil litigation, this is supposed to be public. And so he basically said, he said, we've received an application from the press, that's Inner City Press, and he directed them to, I guess, spend a week redacting the things they've been filing in the first part of the case so that next Tuesday they put them in. That's a week from today. And he said thereafter, do it once a week. I don't know. First of all, that's on too much of a delay. And number 2, I could see that sliding. He didn't say on which day of the week to do it, how to do it on a rolling basis. And so it seems like a setup for a problem. So there may have to be other filings, but at least we've gotten to first base. So we're leading off first, and we may try to steal second. Not steal second. We deserve second. So I actually just did I don't know, somebody else's podcast at greater length about this. And it did make me think that, one, Combs may be calling in the Georgia duo of Steele and Westmoreland more often because they seem to take a more aggressive approach. And, you know, just looking at it in terms of strategy, if you didn't plead guilty, it's because you think the witnesses are lying. And if you think the witnesses are lying, you should ask them if you can, are you lying? Why is your story so different? That happens all the time. People speak to the government a number of times, and the stories aren't always exactly the same. And it can be explained away, but if there's too many differences, this is what a cross-examination is supposed to focus on, not a bunch of reading back years and years of emails. Just a critique. Let me move to another SDNY case. There's a number of them, and we do our best, especially now that the trial ends at 3, to run and cover them. Yesterday there was a white-collar criminal called Leach. $600 million are missing. He's out on the lam. He's out on bail, and he'll have a trial in, I guess, April 2026. But there's another guy. It's even worse. Jonah Rechnich. Now, if you're a New Yorker, you may remember this. He was part of a Bill de Blasio corruption scandal. Well, he's putting back his...
Okay. Now, with that all been said, let's see what is going on here. AJ Matthews says, if you're not going to Costa Rica, come to Vegas. Listen, I actually am coming to Vegas at some point because my oldest son actually lives in Vegas. And, let me just tell you all a story real quick. Hold on, let me check these updates. And then we got to talk about how my son, who actually lives in Vegas, was at the gym working out last Friday when a mass shooter comes in, shoots up the place. My son had to flee for his life, okay? And that explains why last Friday, if you all remember when I got on live, I said I wasn't feeling good that day. I just wasn't feeling good, like my spirit wasn't sitting right. I had a dream about my son, and I got up that morning and actually called him, or not that morning, that afternoon, I actually called him when we went to break from the trial, and he didn't answer, and then I texted him, and then I texted his girlfriend. But we'll talk about that later. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Okay, so 3 minutes ago, this is from Inner City Press. AUSA Slavic says, what did you do for Mr. Combs in New York? David James says, I'd bring him applesauce, Jell-O, Fiji water, his toiletry bag with ointments, not ointments. Okay, just for men is for your hair. Okay, that's something that men used to dye their hair with, I believe. We bought 40 items so he wouldn't call us later. I'd get a key, like at the Trump International, he says. Okay, then David James says, I'd set up the medicine bag in the personal LV, personal LV bag, which is the Louis Vuitton. Okay, AUSA Slavic said, what was in it? David James says, Viagra, ecstasy, perks. AUSA says, how did you go about replenishing these supplies? David James says, I'd used my personal credit card. Bad boy paid me back. Bad boy paid me back. All right. Let me tell you all something that Diddy was doing that was real slick, in my opinion. See how that guy said bad boy would pay him back? He'd use his personal credit card. Think about how one of the S worker, Daniel Phillip, who got on the stand, said that Cassie would pay him, and that Cassie would sometimes pay him with a debit or credit card. See how Diddy was having other people to pay for certain things with their credit card, or he'd give them the cash and they'd pay for it, just like he gave Cassie that $30,000 that she used to pay off Kerry Morgan. Okay, you see how Diddy was being real slick about not having the money changed from his hands. Okay, please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, let's see what CNN reports. Okay, so Combs' sister is in court today, by the way. Okay, here's from 30 minutes ago. The judge took the bench 55 minutes ago. Okay, now the lawyers are seeming to have a debate about Cassie's mother, whether or not she can take the stand today. Prosecutors and defense attorneys are debating on upcoming testimony from David James, who will continue testifying this morning, and Cassie Ventura's mother, Regina Ventura, who's expected to take the stand later today. Now, prosecutors argue that Regina Ventura can testify that in December of 2011, Sean Diddy Combs demanded she pay him $20,000 for money that he spent on her daughter after he learned she was romantically involved with Kid Cudi. What? The money demand came within days of Combs allegedly threatening Cassie Ventura and Kid Cudi and threatening to release sexually explicit videos of her. Now, Regina Ventura took out a loan and wired the money to him. Wow, do y'all hear this? Diddy made this girl's mother pay him $20,000 because he was butthurt. Wow, after all the lying and cheating he did, please pay attention. So, and then pay attention, he said that otherwise he would release these videos of Cassie. So anyway, she wired the money to Combs. The money was wired back to her without explanation days later. Oh, so he gave it back. Okay, the government has bank records to support the transactions, but still, that's just so petty. Now, that being said, hold on. Okay, I lost my place. Okay, here I go. Prosecutors say the jury should hear this evidence. Okay, they say it speaks to the coercive control that Combs held over Cassandra Ventura. Now the defense, sorry guys, now the defense objected to the testimony, saying it would be prejudicial to Combs's highlighting the economic disparity. This will be prejudicial to Combs, highlighting the economic disparity between him and the Ventura family. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo also noted Combs gave the money back. Now, Judge Aaron Subramanian said Agnifilo could object to the testimony when it comes up during Regina Ventura's testimony later today, and he deal with it then. Okay, so 17 minutes ago, the court is waiting on some jurors to arrive. These jurors keep being late. I bet you that judge who's always in a hurry, wants everything to move at a quick pace, is likely wishing he'd sequestered their behind so they wouldn't be having to get to court every day. Okay, now like yesterday, it appears the start of testimony this morning will be delayed because not all jurors aren't there. Okay, 4 jurors are not there yet, a courtroom deputy says. Yesterday's proceedings were delayed because a juror was running late. When proceedings do resume, David James, an assistant for Sean Diddy Combs from 2007 to 2009, is expected to resume testimony that he started yesterday. James is the first of Combs' former assistants to testify in Combs' racketeering and S trafficking trial, and the 7th witness to be called by the prosecutors thus far. Sean Diddy Combs' sister is in court today. His children and mother, who have been inside the courtroom on the other days, are not yet here today. Okay, Combs is wearing a heather blue sweater, okay, a white collared shirt and dark gray pants. He's talking to his attorney, Mark Agnifilo, Agnifilo, as they wait for court to begin. Okay, now, David James, a former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, is back on the stand. The jury is now entering. Prosecutor Christy Slavic is continuing her line of questioning. David James, a former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, testified that he was on the computer at Combs' home one night when Combs was at a club. He was out at a club with Cassandra Ventura, another assistant as well as security. Now, as soon as he entered the door, he says, he beelined straight for me and pulled up the computer search history. James says, Combs told him that somebody had written a blog post lying about him hitting Ventura, and he wanted to see if James had written it. Okay, James said he did not see Ventura that night, but 2 days later, Combs directed him to bring her food at a nearby hotel. When James brought the food to her hotel room, he was surprised to see a member of Combs' staff answer the door instead of Ventura herself. She stayed at the hotel for about a week. She must have been looking a whole hot mess. Okay, he probably beat the crap out of her, honey, and that's why somebody else had to answer the door. Diddy is low down and clearly nefarious. And here's the thing. So that all being said, those are the updates thus far. Okay, so we'll hold. Now, while we're waiting on that, let's go to, this is, hold on. This is off topic, but I'm going to play this video, okay, about this gym shooting in Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Athletic Club, where my son was right there. I'm like, what the hell? Hold on.
Giant revolutions.
Continuing coverage now of a mass shooting at a Las Vegas athletic club in the Northwest Valley on Rainbow, just south of Lake Mead Boulevard. 1 victim shot and killed, 4 others wounded being treated at UMC. The suspect shot and killed by police. Good evening, everyone. Glad you're with us as our coverage continues. I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Latoya Silman. Police telling us that this happened at the Las Vegas Athletic Club around 1:30 this afternoon. That nightmare playing out before unsuspecting gym goers. And News 3's team coverage live from the scene and also UMC Hospital.
Am I on the air?
Our Dana Wagner leads off our team coverage. He is live outside the LVAC as this investigation unfolds. Dana, if you can hear us, what can you tell us about what you know so far from this investigation?
Okay, we're having some communication issues, guys. So I apologize for that. I can't hear you right now, but I can tell you what's going on here at the scene. It's still very active, as you can see. Numerous police vehicles are here. Numerous police officers are on the scene as well. And we have a lot of people who are standing outside of the Las Vegas Athletic Club. We're located here at Rainbow and Vegas Drive, right next to the US 95 freeway. It started around 1:30 this afternoon. And we hear from eyewitnesses that somebody with a long gun came into the Las Vegas Athletic Club and apparently had a long-standing beef with somebody that worked here with the club. He was looking for managers inside and apparently found one. And according to eyewitnesses, he was able to shoot that person. One person was killed. That body's still inside. We don't know the identity of that person. In fact, we don't even know if, in fact, it was the manager who was shot and killed inside. Then the shooter apparently shot some other people inside the gym. Mass panic, people running away from the scene as quickly as they could. And then the shooter came outside, and minutes after it began, it was over. Metro Police taking defensive positions in the parking lot. And we understand from eyewitnesses, once the shooter raised that long gun, which some are speculating is an AR-15, that's when multiple officers fired shots at him, hitting him. He was taken to the hospital where he later died. So numerous gunshots inside, numerous outside fired by Metro officers. There's not an active shooter. This thing ended in a matter of moments. The area is safe now, but the investigation is ongoing and will last for several more hours on site here as 2 people confirmed dead, others in critical condition at the hospital. Right now, let's toss it over to Tiffany. And I think that you had a chance to talk to some eyewitnesses.
Dana, a lot of emotional people here. We see this area is roped off, and it's going to be for quite some time today. Now, we've been speaking with people out here, embracing one another when their loved ones showed up to make sure that they're okay after this horrific experience. This is somewhere they say many people actually come daily or several times a week. They never expected something like this to happen at their gym. Again, a very emotional scene here. We've been speaking with many people. One gym goer who told us that he actually had active shooter training through his former work, and he says he jumped in action to make sure he could get as many people to safety. And that's what this is all about, is this community aspect of thing outside of law enforcement coming here swiftly, as we heard from people. It's people coming together during these difficult times, something you never want in your community. And we've been hearing from people who heard those gunshots. Let's take a listen to one of those gym goers now.
And unless it was one of those, like they do at schools, they go and shoot out, the police was already there, so there was nothing to be afraid. They were looking for someone else. So there was no fear anymore. Mm-hmm. It was like looking at that guy was not a good thing, but no, I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared. I didn't have the time to get scared. It happened so fast.
And that individual that you just heard from there, we also spoke with him. He saw the situation as he was exiting after police had already arrived. A very difficult thing to see as he saw several people who were injured. We're still working to confirm that information at this point. So as we've been hearing right now, a lot of the information we are gathering is from people who were in the gym when this happened. A very sad situation. For now, I'm going to toss it to George Acosta, who's at UMC Hospital, trying to get more information there. George.
This is the quickest way to clear out stuck poop.
I have to poop.
All right. Okay, so that all being said, thank God my son was safe, honey, because at the end of the day, crazy thing is my son had just told me last week that he got into it with some dude at the gym who didn't look like him. A few days before, he had called me and was telling me about that. Because for some reason, these men who don't look like him are always hating on my son, okay? They're always hating on my son. I don't know why, but anyway. Well, actually, I do know why. But nonetheless, he said when he heard the shots and he looked up, he saw the guy shoot the manager at the front desk. Absolutely nefarious, honey. He grabbed his girlfriend and they ran out the back door. And the reason he wasn't answering his phone is because when I was calling both of them, their bags along with their phones were still inside of the place. And nobody could get their belongings until after the police finished their investigation, of course. The inquest said it's not safe anywhere without a bulletproof vest. Sad. Exactly. Okay. American Isn't says that's how it is on the West Coast, honey. Okay. Reggie said keep your head on the swivel and stay prayed up. I know that's right. Okay. So now with that all being said, let's talk about why Diddy's going down for the count. Okay. Let me make sure no more updates have come in and we don't want to miss a thing. All right. So let's talk about it. Likes up, everyone. Please hit that like button. Y'all know y'all can be stingy with them likes sometimes. What's going on here? Y'all don't want to give the queen her due. The end of the day. So let's talk about it, because here's the thing. You know, we get caught up in the S trafficking of it all, because this is basically what they keep talking about. They keep talking about the S trafficking and Cassie and all of that. And, you know, let's not forget, this is only the beginning of this case. We have more weeks of testimony and information to come out. Okay, thank you, Antoinette. Also, thank you, that Crazy Beach Eris and Gwendolyn, for your kind words. I appreciate you all. Okay, so with that all being said, here's the thing. You know, when you have a RICO, I had to pull out my criminal justice book. When I went to college for criminal justice, I actually had a book about organized crime. And, you know, because that's what RICO was started for. It was started for organized crime. And it was just a way for them to get the bosses, okay, the mafia bosses, because, you know, they could catch the minions who are going out here committing all these nefarious acts for the boss, but they could never get them because most people weren't going to flip on them. So this is when they came up with the RICO, which is the racketeering influenced Corrupt Organizations Act. That's what it is. Now, mind you, does Diddy have a corrupt organization? Well, yeah, he does. And here's why. First of all, let's talk about the elements that you have to prove for a RICO. Okay, so the thing is, it requires for you to have, for you to prove that the defendant was a part. Well, first of all, you have to prove that an enterprise exists, that there is an enterprise. And guess what? There is an enterprise, because Diddy had a media company. He had a clothing brand. He was selling Ciroc. Okay. I mean, he had the recording studio, all this stuff. He had a record label. All of that is the enterprise right there. Okay. So then you have to prove that the defendant, that this organization or enterprise was committing illegal acts. Okay, and that the defendant was either a partner in it, employed by it, associated with it in some way. Well, in this case, Diddy's the owner of it. Okay, and then what are the criminal acts? Well, because Diddy was already caught with weapons that didn't have serial numbers on it, he was caught with rugs. Okay, and you know, they don't have to charge him for that stuff separately, because all of it falls under the RICO. Because here's the thing, RICO has a broad umbrella. So anything that you're doing that's illegal in the furtherance or for the furtherance of the criminal enterprise, that's RICO. Okay, so with that all been said, you've already proven those elements, that there is an enterprise, that Diddy did have associations with it because he's actually the owner. And then the criminal acts have to be something that goes along with interstate commerce, which it does, because that just basically means going across state lines. Okay, so they were absolutely going across state lines because, first of all, Diddy has multiple properties and homes in different states. They were traveling out of the country. They were going, you know, they were definitely crossing state lines. And then the acts that the person committed, okay, first of all, there has to be at least 2 predicate acts separate criminal offenses, that is, like more than one criminal offense, but at least 2 of them. And they have to have been committed within a 10-year period. Okay, the acts must be related and demonstrate continuity or threat of continuing criminal activity. Okay, such as fraud, extortion, bribery, money laundering. Okay, so guess what? It was extortion. That's why Cassie's mom is going to testify. That's extortion. If he says to her, you got it, doesn't matter if he gave the money back. He already committed the extortion. Okay, it's like if you go rob a bank and then you decide, I feel bad, I shouldn't have done it, and you go back and give the money back, you're still going to prison. You're still going to jail. So with that all been said, the fraud and extortion, the bribery, money laundering, other things like that. Okay, so there's already coercion been proven because Diddy was making Cassie do things. Now, Cassie said she wasn't wanting to do these things. We heard all the text messages, but here's how they'll play that off. Those text messages went all the way back to like the early 2000s. They've already said, you know, that maybe she wanted to do this stuff in the beginning, but then it got so bad with all the violence and the fights and all this stuff. And now that we've seen those bruises, a chunk of her darn eyebrow missing, like that chunk that was missing, he had to call in a plastic surgeon. That's definitely coercion. Okay, that's definitely the coercion at this point. Who the hell wants their face that done to their face? Who wants to be beaten like that? Okay, at the end of the day, there's the coercion right there. All right, and then also when he was dragging her through the hallway. when he was beating her at the hotel and dragging her back to the room. That was force. He's trying to force her to do something, save but for the security guard that came and said, no, she wants to leave, so let her leave. Okay, so there you have that. And then also, I believe there was also bribery. They haven't really said anything about that, but I believe there was, because if Diddy was telling Cassie if he was doing things to her and then giving her money or love bombing her with gifts and all that stuff, so she would stay after he's done these things. And even if we leave out the bribery, okay, the bottom line is we have the force and we have the coercion and we have extortion, because you're sitting there telling her mom to send you money. And also, he basically was threatening to release videos of Cassie to her when they were on the plane. If you remember, she said there was a video that she had deleted, but he showed it to her that he still had it. And then when he would get mad, he would threaten to release them. Also, here's the thing too. When he supposedly had Kid Cudi's car blown up, okay, that is a criminal act. That's arson, okay, but that's a criminal act that was done in furtherance of the enterprise. And why was it done in furtherance of the enterprise? Because he wanted Cassie to stay with him, and he was mad because she was dealing with Kid Cudi. Okay, so all of these elements are being met as far as I'm concerned. Diddy's just going down. The feds, they have their case. The thing is, but here's the question. Are the jurors going to understand all of these elements? Well, I do believe so, because this is going to be explained to them before they go to deliberate to determine his guilt or innocence. All of these things will be they'll be given instructions, okay, and all of that. So it's just not good for Diddy. Now, here's the thing. And even if they don't have the S trafficking portion of it, because that's just one part of it. Okay, that's just one part of it. And if they don't, even if they don't have that, they have everything else. Okay. Star Child says, so they're going to speak on Kid Cudi's car to the jury. Haven't they already said something about that? Didn't Cassie already say something about that? I think Cassie already talked about that. Okay, I think she already talked about that, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so, and then, like I said, they already have the interstate commerce, because they cross state lines. Okay, American Islam says they have not established how this furthered Bad Boy. Oh yeah, they actually have, because Cassie worked for Bad Boy. Cassie is claiming that she was an S worker. Now, I don't think she was an S worker, but what I do think is that Diddy was basically stringing her along, using the record deal that he gave her as a means of keeping her tied to Bad Boy Records and tied to him. He was putting her in the studio sometimes, letting her, work and record music, but then knowing it wasn't really going to go anywhere. He really wanted her around for other reasons. That Crazy Beach Era said she was a groupie. Well, she may have been, but the bottom line is Diddy signed her to a contract. He never did anything with her music, really. He didn't put her out there like she thought he would. He gave her a 10-record deal, and he didn't do any 10 records, but nonetheless, he kept her around. And also, here's another thing to think about. Don't you think the record label gave him, the people that deal with his record label, these record labels have other connections to, say, for example, how do I want to explain this? Okay, so like Bad Boy and Warner Brothers, okay? These other labels that are working with them, don't you think that they front money to these record labels when they sign artists? Okay, how much money was he giving for Cassie? When he signed Cassie, did he use that money on Cassie? Or did he use that money for the freak-offs? What did he use that money for at the end of the day? American Islam said this is a stretch. No, it's not a stretch. You just don't understand what I'm saying. That's all that is. It's not a stretch. A RICO consists of an enterprise, which I just explained. Diddy has an enterprise. All of these different businesses he had are an enterprise, okay? And keep in mind, we haven't seen all of the evidence, okay? So you can say whatever, but we haven't seen all of the evidence. Until we see all of the evidence and hear all of the testimony, we can't say, we cannot say that it's a stretch, okay? Now, it might be a stretch to call Cassie an S worker, because I don't think she was an S worker. I think that she wanted to be with Diddy so bad she would have done anything But here's the thing. When that expert witness comes in, they're going to talk about things like Stockholm syndrome. They're going to talk about battered wife syndrome. They're going to talk about a lot of things, okay, that will explain why she would still stay there. They're also going to say and argue towards the end that even in those text messages, when she was agreeing with all of this, the expert witness is going to even say that, well, she could say that because she was afraid of getting beat. Okay? Whether it's true or not, remember, at the end of the day, that's what it looks like. Okay? And also, let's not forget, they have Diddy's tax records. They have all of his information. Okay? They have everything. They have all of his financial records. Okay? All of his bank account information. I guarantee you, even though he was getting Cassie to pay the S workers, even though he's the one that gave Kerry Morgan the $30,000, well, Cassie gave it to her. That money, we know that money likely came from Diddy, and they probably have proof of all of these transactions. Reggie said, me too, she was complicit. Well, yes, she was, in my opinion. But here's the thing. People keep asking, well, how was he in a RICO by himself? I told y'all months ago, because everybody else is going to testify against it. That's how you end up in a RICO by yourself. Because when there's a RICO, usually there's multiple defendants. Okay? Usually there's multiple defendants. But in this case, why aren't there any other defendants? Because they're all going to testify against him. Just sit back and watch. That's why. They're all going to testify against him. I'm telling y'all right now, the feds got Diddy dead to right. But here's the thing. Here's the plot twist. Here's the plot twist. Diddy just might get his case overturned because I kept telling y'all about the prior bad acts. Okay, didn't I keep telling y'all about that? Well, who's talking about that now? I showed you all last night, for those of you who tuned in, that the woman that was doing a report about it spoke about bad acts. But guess who else said something about it? Mark Agnifilo. Let me see if I can pull that up. Here it is right here. I mean, here's the thing. Y'all can sit there and debate or whatever, but the bottom line is everything I've told you all about this case has already happened. Has it not? Everything I told y'all about this case has already happened. All right? Now, with that all being said, let's talk about these prior bad acts. And here's the thing. Think about how damaging it was, because y'all probably didn't even think it was a big deal, but just think about how damaging it was when David James got on the stand yesterday and said that when he was speaking to the HR person, she told him, this is Mr. Combs' kingdom. We're here to serve him, or we're here to serve it. That kingdom is an enterprise. That's how the feds are going to paint it. And that's exactly what it is. Bottom line. Here's the thing. I don't like Diddy. Okay, at the end of the day, I told y'all I want Diddy to go down in the first place. Okay. So now I feel secure that he is. Federal prosecutors pressed forward in Diddy's S-trafficking trial today by calling 3 witnesses to testify about how the music mogul appeared to control his longtime girlfriend and R&B singer and model, Cassandra Ventura. As the government's key witness, Ventura testified in unsparing detail last week about sexual encounters with paid male escorts that she said Diddy forced her to endure under physical and psychological abuse. And here's the thing. Those male escorts going across state lines, Diddy paying them or whatever, even though they volunteered or whatever, that's still transportation to engage in prostitution. Okay? That's just what it is. Now, I didn't make the laws. So with today's witnesses, the government tried to bolster its allegations. Now, the last witness of the day, David James, a personal assistant who worked for Diddy from 2007 to 2009, sobbed on the stand as he recounted interviewing for his job. There was a picture of Diddy on the wall, James said, and he was told, this is Mr. Combs' kingdom, and we're all here to serve in it. Okay? Now, I'm going to skip past some of this, but let's talk about the view from the inside that they talk about. Diddy's team brought the heat in today's line of questioning of Richard, appearing to poke holes in her testimony, and it was the first time that we've seen a very aggressive cross-examination by the defense. Let me tell y'all something. 2 of the best lawyers they have on Diddy's team is Nicole Westmoreland and Brian Steele, and I see why these 2 work together. Okay, I see it. Now, with that all being said, defense lawyer Nicole Westmoreland had multiple mic drop moments when she used Rashard's own words against her and suggested inconsistencies in what Rashard recalled about an alleged incident in 2009 when she said Diddy attacked Ventura with a skillet of eggs. Now, on Friday, Rashard testified. Okay, we're going to go past all of that because we all heard about the eggs last night. For those of y'all who missed it, go back and watch. Mark Agnifilo, one of Diddy's lawyers, responded that he worried, listen to this, that he's worried about the testimony being prejudicial to his client. Didn't I tell y'all that? I said they should not have let Dawn Rashard speak. They should not have let her ever testify because she's going to talk about prior bad acts. And why? Because she literally has a civil lawsuit against Diddy right now. Funny thing is, she got up there and testified in the criminal case, and her civil case hasn't even come up yet. Okay, and she accused Diddy of assault in that civil suit. So Mark Agnifilo says he's worried that the testimony is being prejudicial to his client. He says, I think this is becoming sort of a bad act free-for-all. See what I'm talking about? And see how I told you all yesterday that Mark Agnifilo waited to complain about this on the eve of her testimony? He knew what he was doing because he wanted her to get up there and say what she said. Because no matter how you slice it, convicted or not, that's prior bad acts, and they know they can come back on appeal and get the whole thing overturned, just like in the case of Harvey Weinstein. I kept saying that to you all repeatedly for a reason, like I told you, so that when it happens, you'll know that I already told you. You heard it here first. Now, James testified today that he suggested to Ventura that she leave the party life with Diddy, and that Ventura told him she depended on Diddy for her career, her home, and her salary. That may sound like a coercive environment, and coercion is a necessary element for the S trafficking charge. And here's the thing. I looked over that indictment again last night, and as I looked over the indictment, I noticed that in paragraph number 15, there was a special sentencing enhancement. And what is the special sentencing enhancement? That's the S trafficking. That's why they're making this such a big deal. Okay. But is this kind of coercion envisioned by S trafficking laws? S trafficking under the law with which Diddy is charged includes the use of force, threats of force, fraud, coercion, or any combination of such means to cause a person to engage in a commercial S act. The act defines coercion as threats of serious harm to, or physical restraints against any person. Physical restraint. He was restraining her in that video. That's why they wanted to use it. It's very detrimental to his claims. See, I didn't think about all of this. Like I said, I had to pull out my organized crime book and flip through there and refresh my memory because it's been how long since I graduated college. Now, with that all being said, and this is not stuff that I talk about every day or use in my everyday life. Okay, so with that all being said, the act defines coercion as threats of serious harm to or physical restraint against any person or any scheme, plan, or pattern intended to cause a person to believe that failure to perform an act would result in serious harm to or physical restraint against any person. Do you think that Cassie had a reason to fear Diddy, that she had a reason to be concerned about physical harm? Yes. Y'all saw those bruises? We can't gloss over it, okay? We can't gloss over it. Those bruises that we saw, that proves it right there. The hotel video, that proves it right there. Now, there's no question Diddy physically abused her. When we see as much in the infamous hotel beating video, okay? Now, her testimony about being harmed and restrained would most likely satisfy the coercion elements, and then plus all the stuff that we already saw. But would depending on Diddy for her career, home, and her salary be coercion for S trafficking purposes? Well, probably not. But the government will surely clarify this in its closing argument. See, that's what I told you all. Remember, I told you all the other day that, I think I told you all this last week. If you remember, I told you some of the things that they're catching people lying in, some of the lies they're catching people in, they're not going to make a big deal about it. They're just going to put that right there. Okay. And then when the closing argument comes, that's when all of it's going to come out. All right. That's the most compelling part of any trial to me, specifically a trial of this magnitude. That's when you turn to the jury and you look them square in the eyes and you start telling them why this person needs to go down. And you got to make your case and you got to say everything, precisely. It has to be impassioned and it has to be dramatic, theatrical. Okay. Now, I know this because I've been the prosecutor in mock trials before when I was in college and even after when we were conducting, seminars and things like that for students. So with that all being said, I'm just telling y'all, Diddy's done. It's just a wrap. And that's just what it is. Now, I know some of y'all want him to get off. I never wanted him to get off. I just felt like Cassie was lying about some stuff. I still do. And it was pissing me off because I'm like, she's going to mess around and mess this all up. So that all being said, now James is going to return he's on the stand right now. And so, let's hear what he has to say. Because guess what? I think his testimony is also going to be very detrimental to the diddler. Okay, I think his testimony, whatever he has to say, is going to be very detrimental to the diddler. Okay, and then let's not forget Capricorn Clark is supposed to be testifying also, according to her ex. Now, this is Capricorn right here with James, if you all didn't know, Lauren London's sister. Okay, so let's see if there's any more updates. Okay, here we go. David James, a former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, testified that occasionally Combs would ask him to bring certain items, usually an iPod or food, to his hotel rooms while he was staying there. He recounted an incident in Miami around 2008 when Combs asked him to bring an iPod to his hotel room. James said it took him about an hour to get there, and when he knocked at the door, nobody answered. He entered the room with his own key and saw Cassie Ventura lying on her back in the hotel room with a white comforter up to her neck. She did not move when I entered the room, he testified. Combs was in the shower, he says. James mentioned that he did not speak with Combs or Ventura about the incident afterward because it wasn't his job to discuss their personal affairs. David James, the assistant for Sean Diddy Combs from 2007 to 2009, testified that he saw Combs take rugs and give them to his friends. On a couple of occasions, James procured rugs for Combs, or for Combs' friends. A person called One Stop, this is a person that Don Richard brought up, often brought rugs to Combs, James said. James understood Combs often took Percocet while he was operating his businesses and preferred to take ecstasy at night. Operating his businesses, that's the enterprise. David James, Sean Diddy Combs' former assistant, is detailing several occasions where he said he supplied Combs' friends with rugs. On a trip with Combs to Saint-Tropez, a friend of Combs texted James asking him to get Coca-Cola, the kind that goes up your nose, not the kind you drink. Okay, James said he arranged for the Coca-Cola for Combs' friend, but said Combs didn't ask him to do it. He said he assumed he had to. He assumed he had to. See how people felt like if they didn't do what Diddy wanted, there was going to be consequences and repercussions. And you all already know that we have seen many instances of Diddy being violent. We already know that he's been arrested before for jumping on the son's coach, for example, hitting somebody with a bottle, just numerous of things. Okay, so we know he's violent, and we know that people are afraid of him, and he can be very intimidating and menacing to a lot of people, specifically the people who work for him, okay, who have to depend on him for their job and livelihood, not just Cassie. So on another occasion during a party in Los Angeles, James recalled how Combs sent him back to the house to get ecstasy for a friend. James said he went back to Combs' house to get the ecstasy from Combs' medicine bag and brought it back to the party. Now, this is already sounding like distribution of illegal substances. Okay, Baba Joycelyn said, this assistant is sounding believable. Let's see if he's another Don Richard during cross-exam. Okay, he does. He does sound believable. Okay, so now with that all being said, and I'm going to tell you all something in a minute too. It's very, very interesting to me. Okay, so David James, a former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, testified about an incident when one of Combs' Cartier bracelets went missing, prompting his security to search through all of his and his then girlfriend's belongings. James said he felt he couldn't refuse the search. He felt he couldn't refuse the search. Like he had no option but to let Diddy or whoever go through his belongings. Think about that. Somebody's going through your stuff and you didn't take anything from them, but you can't say no, or at least you feel like you can't say no. So anyway, On 2 other occasions when Combs' possessions went missing, James had to take a lie detector test administered by a man who claimed to have formerly worked with the FBI. Okay, it's very intimidating, he says. Of course it is. On both occasions, James' results showed no discrepancies. James said one of Combs' security agents told him that another employee, Capricorn Clark, also had to take a lie detector test. Yeah, I remember when Capricorn quit working for Diddy when she got fired, supposedly, there was rumors that she had stolen from him. But then Diddy came out and wiped that all up and said, no, she's a great person. She's just moving on to do bigger and better things. She never took anything. Now, I think that Diddy came out and said that because he put pause on Capricorn Clark and didn't want her to go out there and say anything about it. Because remember what Cassie said on the stand? What's the most important thing to Sean Diddy Combs? His success. That's what she said. His success. And he didn't want people saying bad things about him. I mean, but who does, right? Okay, so no more updates so far from Inner City Press. All right, so I'm just telling y'all. See, the whole thing is, hold on. Okay, cross-examination. This is where we'll find out how credible his story is. Okay, this is where we'll find out how credible his story is. If they can, in fact, break him on cross-examination. They said the prosecution's direct question of David James, a former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, has finished. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo is now questioning James on cross-examination. All right. So we'll see how this all pans out. Okay. Trip and Travel says, why would a former employee testify against an employer? This has always been very questionable. Why would they? Because they're subpoenaed, beloved. They're subpoenaed. And also, didn't you just hear this man testify to illegal acts that he engaged in? He said he was procuring the rugs for Diddy and bringing them to Diddy, and also even taking Coca-Cola to Diddy's friends. Okay? That's why he was subpoenaed. If you get subpoenaed by the feds, I'm going to tell you it would behoove you to show up. Okay? I don't know why this phone keeps ringing. I could have sworn I have it on Do Not Disturb. Let me just double check. So, and then here's the thing. If you have an employee, oh, I don't have it on, my bad. If you have an employer that you don't like, okay. There are some employers that I've had in the past, honey. You let the feds call me and tell me to come testify on them. Of course I will. Okay, please. Right? You say that as if everybody loves their employers. Most people hate their bosses. That's just a fact. Most people hate their bosses. Please. Okay, so that all being said, beloved, that's why. Claudette said threading the needle. Exactly. Reggie said Farnsworth allegedly stole J-Lo's boots. Yes, I heard about that. I heard about that too. Okay, but I think he said something about he didn't steal them. He picked them up or what. I can't remember the whole story, but I definitely heard that. Okay. Red said, when you're summoned, you don't have a choice. You can be a hostile witness. Right. Now, here's the thing. You cannot show up, just like they can't find Gina Hunn, who was victim 3. That nobody had really confirmed that, but I'm telling you that's who it was. Okay. I'm telling you that's who it was. At the end of the day, because I know somebody who knows her. And there's 2 reasons Gina Hunn didn't want to show up. The first is because she hangs out with a lot of these celebrity dudes when they come. She's like a groupie to me. She hangs out with a lot of these celebrity guys that come to Vegas where she lives. And basically, at the end of the day, she doesn't want to fall out with these people. Just think about it. You're up here on the stand testifying against a big time celebrity like Diddy. Now, how do you think these other celebrities going to be looking at you? Like they don't want to trust you. They don't want you around them. They don't know what you might be, writing down, recording, or doing anything sneaky that can get them, exposed for anything later. So she knows that wouldn't be a good idea. Okay, so that's for number 1. But also she doesn't like Cassie. Remember how Cassie kept saying that she didn't like this girl? They hated each other. Okay, Cassie was jealous of Kim Porter, but she literally hated Gina Hunn. And that's because she felt like Gina came in the picture after her. And she's been doing all these freak offs and all this stuff with Diddy. And Diddy's not even giving her the right amount of time. He's not having her out for holidays. She can't be around his kids. And then here comes somebody else added to the mix. So she really had a problem with that. And let's not forget, they had beefs back and forth. They actually talked, several times. So Gina doesn't want to help Cassie. She's not going to do anything to further her agenda, likely. So that's how that goes. Okay. And yes, Reggie's absolutely right. You could be a hostile witness. Now, speaking of John Richard, she was a hostile witness, but not the kind that we're thinking about, like the person who doesn't want to testify and you make them. Well, that's not what I'm talking about with Dawn. I mean, Dawn was hostile and she was just mad as hell. Okay, marching at her, like she's so mad and all of that stuff. And then y'all saw how she got harassed when she left. Okay, that's right. Reggie says she's a groupie girl. American Isn't says she's the younger woman. Exactly. She was even younger than Cassie. That's right. And here's another thing. Let me tell y'all something that I think, and I meant to bring this up yesterday. Remember Carrie Morgan, the one that was such a good, did such a good job on the stand? Well, Carrie Morgan and Cassie were friends, but remember how Cassie said that she was jealous of Carrie because she thought Diddy wanted her? Now, I wonder if Carrie and Diddy and Cassie did freak-offs together. Just like I told you all, I wondered if Cassie and Diddy and Lauren London did freak-offs together because they were good friends too. And I showed you all the pictures where Lauren London and Cassie were all up on each other like in an intimate way. You all remember. So, and then the way Lauren was so fond of Diddy, which was crazy to me because he beat your sisters behind, allegedly. Okay, according to Capricorn Clark, according to Suge Knight and other people, and accused her of other things. So I was like, how is Lauren London friends with this dude? Okay, but I think that maybe Lauren London, Cassie, and Diddy had something going, and I think the same thing may have been the case with Carrie. Okay, because at the end of the day, Diddy felt like he could just put hands on her. Now, why would he think that he could just do that? You know what I'm saying? That was real crazy to me. So I don't know. And then also, why would Cassie think that Diddy wanted her? Here's what I think. Either she had a threesome with them or Diddy asked Cassie to invite her to one. And maybe it didn't happen, but that let Cassie know that he's been looking at her like that. Because why would Cassie just randomly be jealous of her own best friend of 17 years and thinking that Diddy wants her? Okay. And you know, you can't trust when you have a man that's a billionaire, you really think you can trust your friends around him? I promise you, you can't. Okay. I promise you, you can't. I mean, think about it. Kim Porter and Sarah Chapman were friends, or Kim Porter and Misa Hilton, and Kim Porter and Sarah Chapman. Did y'all know that? Y'all know that, right? Because I know I told y'all that before. Okay. Elizabeth said Diddy was a pimp. Now think about this. Speaking of Diddy being a pimp, what do pimps do? Don't they traffic people? And here's the problem. Now, I'm not saying Diddy was actually a pimp, but Diddy acted like a pimp. Okay. And here's the thing. Do you all remember in the lawsuit where they said that Diddy was talking trash about Danity Kane and he said he would give them some rugs and then pimp them out to his homies? Now, what if that comes up in court? What if that comes up in court? Do y'all remember that? Said Diddy said that he would give them some rugs and pimp them out to his friends. All right. So I'm just saying, at the end of the day, David James testified about an occasion when he went with Combs' security guard to a diner to get food for Combs and the staff. When they got there, the security guard saw Combs' rival, Marion Suge Knight, and approached him. They talked briefly before the guard and James went inside to order. When they went back to Combs' house, Combs and Ventura were outside the house arguing. Ventura looked like she had been crying. Combs then ordered James to drive him and the security guard back to the diner to look for Knight. Now, it sounds like he's corroborating Cassie's story about that Suge Knight incident and those two guns. Combs sat in the back seat with 3 handguns in his lap. Knight was gone when they got back to the restaurant. James said that he was shook up by the incident. It was the first time that he felt he was in danger as Diddy's assistant. James said he gave his notice soon after the incident. He was smart. Okay, he was smart. Do y'all hear that? He gave his notice soon after that incident, offering to stay with Combs for 6 more months to train a replacement. He left Combs' company in May of 2009. That was it for him. He's like, I'm out of here. Y'all doing too much. Okay, and I know about stuff like that. I mean, not about being, that kind of incident, but I'm just saying, I have stayed with the company for 2 weeks, not 6 months, but 2 weeks, long enough to train my replacement because I'm like, I'm out of here. Okay, so That's it right there. Those are the latest updates. Right now, what I want to see is what Lauren LaRosa has to say on the Breakfast Club. And also, let's take a look at Burden of Proof from ABC. We've missed it the last couple of days because I actually forgot about it. Okay. And also, Diddy's friend, the one that has the free puff shirts, he's back on News Nation. So let's see what he's talking about first. We'll go to the Breakfast Club to see what Lauren London's talking about. I mean, Lauren LaRosa. Okay, hold on. All right. Reggie said, when it's time to separate, okay? I mean, just imagine you're working for somebody as an assistant. You're all excited because this is a famous person or whatever. And then you mean to tell me you got to be involved with something where you're riding in the car with somebody with guns on their lap and they're going after a thug and they're a thug? Because this is something. Do you all remember what I told you all over a year ago? I told you all that the difference between Jay-Z and Diddy is that Diddy acts like a thug. Do y'all remember me telling you that? When I told y'all Diddy acts like a thug. Yeah, he does. Okay, Diddy might not be in the mafia. He might not be a mob boss, but he acts like a mob boss. Do y'all see that? Do y'all see that? DJ Big Six says 10 years though. Come on. What do you mean, beloved? What do you mean by 10 years? You talking about the stuff with Cassie? The stuff with Cassie might have been years ago, but all this other stuff that Diddy's been accused of, hasn't he still been doing that as of late? Didn't they catch him with guns with no serial numbers when they did the raids? Didn't they catch him at his hotel the day before or the day that he was arrested with rugs? Okay. Mel said, Queen, I think they did. Birds of a feather flock together. I believe it too, beloved. That's exactly what I think. Okay. Chieftain says, I was watching a special this morning about Diddy and 50-20 year beef. All this is crazy. A 50-20 year beef. What's that? Hold on. Well, Diddy's father was working with Frank Lucas back in the day. Exactly. Diddy thinks he's Frank Lucas. This is all crazy. Diddy's going down. That's just what it is. Reggie said, for the record, I'd wear that shirt for $200 an hour. Ain't nothing going on but the rent. Okay, I know that's right, Reggie. Like, tell him, don't judge you. Above all that drama, said Bussy gripped guns on his lap at all times. Elizabeth said, itty bitty Diddy going down, okay? Mel said, Diddy can't bust a grape in a fruit fight. Mama Joycelyn said, that's how you do it. You stay, and when it gets uncomfortable or nefarious, that's when you leave. Yeah, I mean, he did the smart thing, okay? He did the smart thing. Nubian Cutie said, paying men to screw Cassie. He was pimping Cassie. Lana said, I think J-Lo did all of that freaky stuff with Diddy too, more likely than not. You know, she probably did, beloved. She honestly probably did. Okay. Now, Joy says, maybe everyone got pregnant at these parties with no protection. Well, you know, I don't know if did Cassie say anything about she had abortions by him? I can't remember. But, you know, probably did. But here's the thing. I want you all to pay attention to something. I think that Cassie has the big H. I think that Cassie has the big H. And here's why. Because they've said that Diddy has it. And not to mention Jonathan Oddie said Diddy gave it to him and he sued him. Now, if Diddy gave it to Jonathan Oddie, this is all alleged, but that's what Jonathan Oddie said, remember, in the video. So if Diddy gave it to Jonathan Oddie and they were having relations with these people unprotected, well, you know, Cassie might have it too. And maybe that's why. She must have something, in my opinion, because why did the feds, you know, basically ask the judge to bar the defense from asking her anything about STDs? Y'all remember that? Why would they not want them to ask her about STDs? Because she might have one, and it's probably the herpes, okay? And that would be so embarrassing. But that's likely what that was. Now, defense attorney, okay, hold on, okay. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo referenced documents from David James's meetings with the government, highlighting one where his account of the Mel's Diner event ended before he returned to Combs's home. He said the government had instructed him not to say anything that would incriminate himself. The documents also indicate that at one point he told them some of the events took place inside the diner, even though he testified today they occurred outside the diner. I think these are inaccurate notes, James said. He maintained that his recollection of the majority of the event has remained consistent. That's just a minor detail. If he said one time that it was outside, then he said it's inside, that's just a very minute detail. That's not a big deal. That's nothing compared to what Dawn did. That's nothing in comparison to what Dawn did, okay? Mama Jordan said perhaps now her husband Alex has it. Well, she probably just makes sure not to have relations with him when she's having any of those outbreaks or, you know, anything like that. I don't know. And something about that I was thinking was, when she's giving birth, because if you have herpes and you happen to have a breakout, an outbreak when you're in delivery, you can give it to that child. And that could be deadly for a baby, for an infant. Do the research. So I'm wondering if Cassie is having C-sections. She might be, I don't know. But then what makes me think that she may not be having C-sections is because they kept talking about her going into labor before the trial, before her testimony was complete. And C-sections are scheduled. So I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, it's just something I was thinking about. DJ Big Six said RICO is some straight BS in my opinion. Well, of course it is, because here's the thing. Let me just tell you something. It is some straight BS. Because like I said, when they first came out with this was their way of getting these mob bosses, these crime bosses, because people wouldn't roll over on them, wouldn't flip on them. So they're like, okay, we got you. We're just going to make it to where even if you had any type of association, even if you didn't do anything, let's just say that you have an organization where all these people are going out here committing all these crimes and you're not committing any of the crimes. You know about all the crimes and you don't do anything about any of the crimes. You know, and you might even lend money for them to pay for some of the crimes or whatever. They might be asking you for advice about how to get away with the crimes. You might be telling them to go do the crimes, but you're not doing it. That's how they get you. And here's another thing about RICOs that's crazy. You know, the judge was complaining about Mark Agnifilo not saying anything about Dawn Richard's testimony until the last minutes. But the bottom line is, I don't see why that was such a big problem for the judge. I feel like the judge been a little prejudicial, in my opinion. I feel like the judge is obvious to me that he's more so on the side of the feds. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, with a RICO, it's a fact that they don't have to tell you, or, you know, during discovery, they don't have to give you all of the information like the witnesses that are going to testify and things like that. They don't even have to give you all of that information until 3 days before. 3 days, that's it. So it's really like a trial where you're being ambushed, okay? It's like you're being ambushed. So it is some BS, in my opinion, absolutely. But, you know, hey, they make the laws, okay? They make the laws. Most hated bronze flat power God said Gene Deal said the guy Jonathan had swords in his mouth too, and they paid him $2 million to keep quiet. It was actually $5 million, and yeah, they did pay him according to him. And actually, I showed you all the non-disclaimer, the NDA that they had him to sign. Also, if you remember, I showed you all that. So anyway, this is all a hot mess. Bottom line, Lisa said Usher got it too. Above all that drama said Bumpy Combs. Not Bumpy Combs. Instead of Bumpy Johnson. Okay, so with that all being said, TT Santiago said RICO was created in the 70s by some law professor, was not utilized until organized crime. It fit the exact definition of what the mob crime said. Well, I think I already said all that, yeah. That's why they came up with RICO. That's exactly why, so they could get the mob bosses. Otherwise, they would have never been able to get John Gotti, in my opinion. Okay, because who was telling on him? Okay, Now, let's go to this video. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Hold on, what is this? Okay, yeah, I'm going to go to this video here. Let me make sure Inner City Press. Okay, nothing from Inner City Press as of yet. I'm following CNN because they are much quicker at putting up the updates. Inner City Press be taking too long. He be in there getting all caught up in the scoop of it all. I can tell because he'll post like an hour later or whatever. Okay, he's doing his thing. But anyway, and shout out to him because he sends me all the law documents and everything. He sends me all these law documents. I send you all the declarations, petitions, motions, and all that. Okay. Oh, and let me just tell you all something else I forgot to tell you all. This is really why Diddy's done. Listen to this. This is something else I figured out. And I'm going to have Gavin Richard on here later on today. I spoke with him to see if he can please come on here, because I have a very good knowledge of the law, but he's the expert. Okay, because he actually is an attorney, a practicing attorney. With that all being said, it was something I wanted to tell you all. I wrote it down so I didn't forget. Oh, so here's why Diddy's definitely done. Because what the defense, right? Diddy is basically done because all of the elements of a RICO have been met. That's my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see. We don't have to agree. Y'all can disagree, but I'm telling y'all, okay, from what I know, all of the elements have already been met. But here's the thing. Here is the thing. What Mark Agnifilo probably did, he is so slick and he's very smart. Now, he waited to complain about Dawn Richard at the last minute so that it would be too late to stop her from getting on that stand. I told y'all yesterday that was strategic. See, think about it like this. I'm just a lay person. Okay, I'm just a regular citizen. I'm not an attorney. I did go to school for criminal justice, but at the end of the day, if I just went to school for criminal justice and I know this, you know damn well Mark Agnifilo knows it. He doesn't miss anything, I'm sure. But here's what he probably did. Diddy's defense team, specifically Mark Agnifilo, probably filed a pretrial motion in limine. Okay, now you all remember I explained to y'all what a motion in limine is. Okay, where evidence that's prejudicial that overweighs probative value. Okay, he probably wanted the judge to keep that information out, certain things out. Dawn Richard's testimony would be one of those things because it's prejudicial, because it's prior bad acts. Okay, and she testified, like I said, during the criminal proceeding before she testified for her civil proceeding. And this is, quite frankly, called muddying the waters. That's what that's called. Okay? That's what that's called. So at the end of the day, honey, when I tell you both of these teams are really good, the prosecution knows what they're doing. And remember, the feds, they usually come correct. The feds usually come correct. They usually are not going to come unless they know what exactly is going on. And don't forget what a motion to eliminate is. I told you all that. And matter of fact, I'm pretty sure Mark Agnifilo did file that pretrial motion because I read so many motions, I can't remember everything. But I did talk to you about a motion to eliminate, which is a pretrial request made to the judge to exclude specific evidence or arguments from being presented during trial. Yes, he did. I literally read it to you all. So you know what? That's what that is. Okay. So he was very much so acting strategically. Okay. Mel said, Queen, you're a hot mess. Thank you, beloved. I probably am. Okay. Now, with that all being said, TT Santiago said, I really want to know why Mary J. Blige has not said a damn thing about him. She has strict instructions for outlet and TV programs. She goes on a not ask her any Diddy questions. She hasn't said a word. Well, she's not said anything, beloved, for the same reason nobody else has said anything. Nobody wants to get involved. If you were Diddy's friend previously and all this is happening and you're a celebrity like him in the music business specifically, and all these people are hearing all this stuff, do you want to be tied to that? Do you want to have anything to do with it? Remember what Mary J. Blige came out and said publicly. She posted on her Instagram, I think. She said something about, I'm real good at burning bridges. Okay? So she's not going to go down for him. She don't want to be dragged into it. Like, people don't want to lose their their fans. They don't want to lose their prestige or any of that stuff. Reggie said, Queen, all you need is law school and the bar and you're ready. I'll start a GoFundMe. Thank you, beloved. Actually, now you can be an apprentice for somebody. You don't even have to go to law school. Okay. You can just apprentice for somebody and get this is what Kim Kardashian was doing. You can just apprentice for somebody and get enough hours and then go take the bar exam. Okay, I absolutely could do that right now. I know darn well that I could pass the bar exam. I'm pretty sure. I've already taken the LSAT, which is the test you take to get into law school. I already took that years ago. I paid like $1,500 to take it. Okay, and I passed it with flying colors. Not to mention, I graduated college, with honors. Don't make me pull out my medals. But I'm just saying, I definitely could do that. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, American Isness said, Black people usually know not to help the government railroad people. Right. Unless they think they might get railroaded. Rick said, I would stay as far away as I could. Exactly, honey. Who wants to get caught up in that? Okay. And then also, they may have done something. Who knows what some of these other people did? And then, let's not forget about these tapes. Maybe some of these people are on tapes. We don't know the extent of it. But I sure wouldn't have anything to say about Diddy right now. Okay. Because the problem is this. All of these other celebrities that were friends with Diddy, do you hear about them going out here acting like fools, hitting people upside heads with bottles? Remember, this is what I brought up to you about Jay-Z. Jay-Z flies under the radar because Jay-Z's not ever acting like a whole thug. Jay-Z goes around in suits. Okay, Diddy going around here, he wears suits sometimes, but I'm just saying Diddy acts like a whole street person. He acts like a thug because that's how he wants to be presented or wants to present himself because he wants to have people fearful of him and intimidated of him. And if you think about that movie, I want to say, Kicking It with Auntie Leah says, you're a very intelligent queen. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, Diddy likes to have people afraid of him. And I think it was the movie, The Bronx Tale. It was a movie with Chaz Palminteri. What's that actor's name? I love him too. Chaz Palminteri. Hold on. Chaz Palminteri. That's his name. He said in a movie, this is him right here. Let me show him. He plays in some of these mob movies. He said something in a movie about, would you rather be loved or feared? Okay. Now, what would you rather do? See him right here? That's him. Now, the question is, one's in the chat. Would you rather be loved or feared? One's in the chat. Chaz Palminteri. Okay. Would you rather be loved or feared? AJ says feared. I'd rather be loved. Would you rather be loved? Once, if you prefer to be loved. Twos, if you prefer to be feared. So we already know AJ's nefarious because AJ wants to be feared. Okay, AJ. And you'd end up like Diddy. Because Diddy, I honestly believe he wanted to be feared. Trues No TV wants to be feared, said fear is stronger than love. Here's the thing. Let me just tell you. Fear is stronger than love. Okay, you could say that. TFL said feared. I'd rather be loved. And I'm going to tell you why. Because fear is the lowest vibration. Love is the highest. For those of you who follow the spiritual channel, I've told you this 1,000 times, that love is the highest vibration and fear is the lowest. Okay, so anytime you're operating based off of a low vibration, it only brings negative things. Okay, it only brings negative things. And also think about this. If people fear you, guess what that means? That means they do whatever you say out of fear. And when people fear you and you're making them do things or they're feeling obligated to do it because they're just afraid of consequences, that breeds resentment and contempt. So they secretly hate you. Okay? They secretly dislike you when they fear you. But when people love you, love brings loyalty. And when people love you, they do what you want and ask because they love you. So love is really stronger than fear, in my opinion. And also, a person who loves you, they will be loyal to you and they would not flip on you 9 times out of 10, even if you did something nefarious. Because they love you, they will be loyal to the end. But a person who fears you, now they want you to go down because I don't have to be scared no more. Your ass is locked up. That's Diddy's problem. When Diddy got locked up, everybody starts coming out. All these bodyguards, all these other people that work with Diddy, all these people who were signed to Diddy, they all came out and started talking real greasy. They all came out and started talking real greasy. A lot of these people aren't saying shite when Diddy was free. When Diddy went to jail, here comes everybody got a story to tell. Now everybody wants to point the finger and start telling all Diddy's innermost secrets that they knew, things that they saw, things that they heard. This is what people do when they fear you, because they want you to go to jail. They want you to go to prison, stay locked the hell up, because now they don't have to worry about you. Okay? People that love you, they don't want to see you down bad. They'll do anything to protect you that they can. And if they get questioned about you, they're going to act like they don't know a damn thing. Okay? Think about James Roseman, a.k.a. Jimmy Henchman. Jimmy Henchman, I don't know if he loved Diddy, if they were loyal to each other to that degree, but what I do know is that James Roseman did not fear Diddy because he was a gangster himself. So when the Fed set him down in 2011 and they were asking him to let them know about if Diddy's been having any type of relations with minor boys, he was facing, I think, like a life sentence. He didn't tell them anything. Okay? He didn't tell them anything. He had no fear of Diddy at the end of the day. And he also was definitely not going to be a snitch. Okay? So just keep that in mind. So those of you who want people to fear you, okay, that comes with the cost. Okay? Because fear breeds contempt. I'd rather for people to love me at the end of the day. That way I don't have to worry about them trying to take me out. If somebody is fearful, you don't think they sometimes fantasize about how to get rid of this person so I don't have to be fearful of them? How can we bring this person down? You know, all that stuff. People will turn on you when they fear you. That's how that works. People will absolutely turn on you. Vision said, perfect love casts out fear. Okay? Just Joy said, preach, Queen. Thank you, beloved. Now, let's see if we have any more updates, and then we're going to get into this thing with this video from News Nation where they have Diddy's little friend who's walking around. See, this dude loves Diddy. Okay? This dude doesn't fear Diddy. He loves him. And that's why he's not afraid and he's not embarrassed and doesn't feel some type of way. And he boldly walks up into the courtroom every day with his free puff shirt on. That's what love will do for you. People who fear you, they're not going to do that. They're going to walk in there and sit in that stand and testify against you because now you locked up. You can't get to me, so I'm going to go ahead. Oh, and another thing, what they have on Diddy is the witness intimidation that they spoke about. They said Diddy was intimidating the witnesses. That all falls under the umbrella of RICO. They got Diddy 7 ways till Sunday is all I'm saying. Okay, I had to go and, like I said, I had to go and sit down and consort my old organized crime book, honey. And I was like, oh, snap, Diddy, you're done. You're done, Diddy. Okay, hold on. From 6 minutes ago, defense attorney Mark Agnifilo referenced documents from James's meetings with the government, highlighting one where he was, where his account of the Mel's Diner incidents ended before he returned to Combs's home. He said the government had instructed him not to say anything that could incriminate himself. Hold on, I think I read all of that. Yeah, I did. No, hold on. This is something else because wait a minute. Did they add something to this? Agnifilo said James, whether he spoke up or not, whether he spoke up at any point when Combs, or he asked James whether he spoke up at any point when Combs was allegedly telling him to get back in the car to return to Mel's Diner, or when Combs was sitting in the back seat with 3 guns. James said, respectfully, sir, you have someone with 3 guns in close proximity. I didn't think I had an option to say anything. I didn't think I had an option to say something. He's right. Okay, Agnifilo also grilled James about his conversations with prosecutors Tuesday morning before he took the stand, asking if James was prepped on how to handle the Mel's Diner incident. James said they mentioned Agnifilo's style, garnering laughs in the courtroom. So they mentioned Agnifilo's style. And then Agnifilo said, how'd I do? And he started laughing himself. And then James said, consistent. So they basically warned him about Agnifilo's style, how he gets down. So defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked David James if he was granted immunity for his testimony. James said he wasn't sure of the details that were brokered by his attorney, but he believes he signed a proffer agreement, a type of agreement that gives a person some protection from the prosecution. Okay. Now, Sean Diddy Combs is former, see, because I told y'all, he admitted to committing crimes. This is why I believe his testimony thus far. First of all, he sounds credible to me. And also he admitted to doing crimes himself. He admitted that he's taken things out to see. Here's the thing. When somebody keeps it real and says something that even can make them look bad, okay, they're likely telling the truth. Dawn Richard wouldn't let me know that she was a liar who lies right away, that she was about to start lying. It's when they asked her why she was testifying or why she was saying something after all this time. And she said for justice. We all know it wasn't for no damn justice. You filed a civil lawsuit, girl. You did it for a bag. Okay? Cassie got a bag and you wanted one too. That's what that was. She should have just kept it real. I told y'all what she should have said last night. Okay, Sean Diddy Combs' former assistant David James testified that before he began working for Combs, he was a fan of Sean Combs' clothing line. James said he knew Combs to be a successful self-made businessman who was a brilliant marketer. I just respect Mr. Combs from a business perspective, he said. Now, defense attorney Mark Agnifilo suggested repeatedly that David James actually left D-Rock at the restaurant and he went back with Combs to get him. James denied this each time, testifying that it wouldn't have made sense to leave him there with Suge Knight outside wielding a gun. During cross-examination, David James, a former assistant of Sean Diddy Combs, was pressed about his travel with Combs. James had testified yesterday that he traveled extensively with Combs, including internationally. Today, defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked if these were business trips or personal trips. James said there was a fine line, since Combs' personal life and his business life blended together. He described them as business-oriented trips. He's good with his line of questioning, okay? He's good with his line of questioning. Yeah, he's doing a good job. He's doing a good job so far. I mean, and I want you all to pay attention. Reggie said, please, Dawn, okay? Okay, so with that all being said, it was something. Deal is outside selling alcohol instead of spilling all his tea under oath. Yeah, he's not testifying. He's not testifying. With that all being said, hold on. See, anybody that's been doing interviews about Diddy, especially if you've been getting paid to do interviews, they're not going to have you testify about anything. Okay? They're definitely not going to do that. The defense would have all kinds of gripes. That'll definitely get the case just overturned. Okay, so let me share my screen so we can get into this. I want to hear what Diddy's friend has to say, and then I want to find out what Lauren LaRosa has to say on The Breakfast Club.
Let's get perspective now, okay? Combs' friend of more than 35 years, all right? The idea that you don't know somebody after that amount of time is an impossibility. The question is, will he be truthful? Charlucci Finney, it's good to have you.
How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you taking the time. I see by what you're wearing that you are a strong supporter indeed of Diddy, as you have been since this first started. First, respond to this main idea. Sean is rough. He hits women, and you do what he says or he will punish you. And that's why Cassie and others were not willing participants at the freak-offs. What do you make of that suggestion?
Like you said, it's a suggestion, and that don't make it a fact. That just make it a suggestion, like you just said, my friend.
Why isn't it a fact?
Because it hasn't been proven that's a fact. It's a suggestion. Someone said something, right? You have to follow behind it, and you have to hear two parts to it. So what was said, what you're saying, is what this was heard. That's it. There's no facts to it.
But you tell me, from your experience,
right?
Was the Cassie a one-off, or is your friend somebody who's got a problem with hitting women? Did he make people do things they didn't want to do? You would know the answer, Charlucci.
Okay, so a one-off. I don't even know him to hit women. That's one, right? And after what I've seen, right? My friend was in a toxic relationship with another person that was obviously toxic. Based on what we're seeing, they both admitted to doing drugs, right? And I can't say one-off. Anyone that's enough. Hitting one person is enough. So it's not about 3 and 4 and 5, 6 and 7. One person is enough. And nobody should put hands on nobody. A man shouldn't touch a woman. A woman should not touch a man, especially in a violent manner.
And you're saying you never saw him hit any women?
Never.
The idea that people...
I'm a father.
Go ahead, please, Charlucci.
I'm a father of two daughters, right?
First of all, he just needs to keep it real. We all know that Diddy was putting hands on people and women included. Okay? Think about Mark Garagos, Teeny Garagos' father, Diddy's former attorney. Mark Garagos even said that Diddy was violent. He said, but that doesn't prove a RICO. But he did say that Diddy has a violent temper. And that's obvious. Man, stop the cap. So they're talking about he doesn't know Diddy hits women. So you don't know anything about Kim Porter's nose being broken? Please make it all make sense. So
I wouldn't be here wearing this shirt if I've ever saw any one of my friends, especially him, hit a woman. And it would never happen in front of me. And I've never seen it, never heard it. And seeing it, yeah, it was a lot to take in, but I knew that wasn't him. It looked like, you know, like I was saying, drug induced, high, or whatever you want to call it. But that's not the Sean that I know. That you see in that hallway.
The idea that the freak-offs, people had to do it because they were afraid of Sean Combs.
I don't believe that. They were consenting adults. How you gonna make a ex-worker fly in town or come to somewhere and leave unharmed, unscathed? Like I've never heard of nothing like that in my life. These sound like willing participants to me.
Have you been in touch with your friend while he's been in custody?
Yes, I have.
How is he holding up during this process?
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot, because he's worried, he's concerned about his family, his children, his mom, his sisters, his nieces, and his nephews. Like he's just focused on getting this behind him.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
When the feds are coming after you, they rarely miss. How burdened is he that if they want to get him, they're going to get him? And how does he process that?
It have to be something to get. You have to have sex trafficking. You have to have racketeering. All I've been hearing is domestic violence. That's all I've been hearing.
Let me just tell you all something, how big of a bully Diddy is. One's in the chat if you used to watch 106 in Park. One's in the chat if you used to watch 106 in Park. I'm going to tell you something that Diddy did. Some of you may remember, but I sure do. Who remembers, who used to watch 106 in Park and you remember when Diddy was on there? Okay, so you all used to watch it. There was an episode of 106 in Park where Diddy had this $40,000 pinky ring he was wearing. He's standing up there talking to, it was either AJ and Free, or maybe it was Terrence and Roxy at the time. I can't remember. But do you all remember there was an episode where he had a $40,000 pinky ring he was wearing? He's up there talking on the mic, and then he goes to throw something to the crowd or wave something. He did something with his hand, but he went like this. He waved his hand and the ring flew off. The ring flew off. And I don't remember if he noticed it right away, but when he did notice it, he was like, he shut it all down. Like nobody was allowed to leave. Now, who can do that? Like nobody was getting up out of there until he got that ring back. It reminds me of what David James testified to when he said that one of Diddy's bracelets came up missing and they went through everybody's stuff and even went through his girlfriend's stuff. And he felt like he couldn't say no. Sandra says, I remember that. Okay. So with that all being said, that's the kind of power that Diddy exerted over people. Terrence and Roxy or AJ and Free, whoever were the hosts at that time, they did exactly what he said. I mean, he was so adamant. He was ticked off. He was like, no, nobody's getting up out of here. I want my ring and this and that. He was basically damn near threatening people. He got that ring back too. Okay? He got that ring back. But anyway, let's continue.
Has he talked to you at all about what happens if they make the case and he loses?
No, he's not thinking like that. We stand prayed up. That's what we're doing. We stand prayed up, and the evidence is going to show that he's not guilty of these crimes that they're alleging.
He's not he's not having those mind games of what happens if I'm in here for the rest of my life?
He's not thinking like that. Why think like that? He didn't think you would have to actually do the crime to do the time, right? So we 1,000% are in belief, and we know that he's innocent. They have to prove them charges.
So people are watching this right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's assume they're open. They only know this guy as the superstar that he is, and you know what they have heard about him. That he was having these parties, he was bringing people in from all over the place. Some of them wanted to be there. The allegation is some of them didn't want to be there, or they were sexually abused by him and they couldn't say anything because of how powerful he is. Okay. What do you want them to know about the man that you know? He didn't bring anyone in. If he was following the case, and I'm quite sure you have, Chris, Cassie brought the people in. Cassie, that's what she did. So a sex worker never said that Sean brought them anywhere, did anything. And as far as being scared, that just mind-boggling to me. I don't believe that at all. Everybody was willing, consenting adults. And this is what his defense team is going to show and prove. Charlucci, I appreciate you coming on to give this perspective. It's important for the audience. And you know how to get us if you have anything that you want to say. Yes, sir.
That man's out of his mind, okay? He's blinded by love for Diddy, honey, okay? Now, American Isn't said, people are saying if the feds are accusing you, that means you're guilty. What? Then what's the point of a trial? That doesn't mean you're guilty. It just means that the feds have enough information to where they think that you're guilty, and they're going to do everything in their power to prove it. Here's the interesting thing, though, about Diddy. Interesting thing about Diddy's case is the feds, normally when they investigate a person, they do a years-long investigation. Well, Diddy's went pretty quickly, in my opinion. But the feds have likely been after Diddy for quite some time because, like I said, they spoke to Jimmy Hinchman in 2011. Okay, how long ago was that? So they've already had their eye on him. But, you know, Diddy had feds who were friends. David James just testified today that when he was taking that lie detector test, it was given to him by somebody who was a fed. And let's not forget that it's been alleged that Diddy worked with the feds. I showed you all the paperwork, so is it really alleged? Okay, so anyway, let's continue. Because here's some more updates. Okay, my stomach just growled. I hope y'all didn't hear it. I didn't have breakfast. Okay, anyway. During cross-examination, David James, a former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, was pressed about his travel with Combs. James testified earlier that he traveled extensively with Combs, including internationally. Today, defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked if there were business trips. Okay, we already went through that part. Okay, hold on. When Sean Diddy Combs would go out in public, people would be almost in a mob around him, asking for autographs and trying to meet him. This is what James says. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked if Combs tended to be gracious in these situations. He said, I don't think gracious is a word I would use to describe Mr. Combs, he says. Combs didn't typically sign autographs, according to James. James said oftentimes Combs' staff members would sign autographs to mail out to fans. David James, a former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, testified that he typically rode in a second car to accompany Combs wherever he went. James said there was usually a second car traveling with Combs for security reasons. Combs and security personnel typically operated a second car to the right of the vehicle transporting Combs to prevent anyone from pulling up on him and potentially assassinating him. Yeah, he wouldn't know about that because that's what he had done to Tupac, dirty devil. Yeah, Diddy, your ass is going to prison, period. So with that all being said, David James, a former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, is an important prosecution witness for his ability to tell jurors what it is like in the music mogul's inner circle, according to a CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney, Joey Jackson. He takes you into the enterprise, Jackson says. Remember about all the overall charges you're looking at in RICO. The RICO, the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act, known as RICO, is used to describe 35 offenses, including kidnapping, murder, bribery, arson, and extortion. Well, we already got arson with Kid Cudi's car being blown up. I mean, let's keep it above. We know Diddy had a hand in it. Prosecutors have said that Combs ran a criminal racketeering enterprise in which he and some of his inner circle coerced women into participating in drug-fueled sex performances called freak-offs. So what prosecutors are doing is getting to this bad behavior, not just to dirty Diddy up, which they're doing effectively, by the way, but also to get you to that RICO issue. You see, this was a bad guy running a criminal enterprise. James, an assistant of Combs's from 2007 to 2009, also said he recalled a conversation that he had with Combs's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, where she said to him, "Man, this lifestyle is crazy." He said he agreed and suggested that she leave. I can't get out. That means coercion. This is the government's theory that she had no real choice but to do what she was doing. That's what they're saying. The defense obviously vehemently objects to this and denies it. Over 4 days last week, Ventura testified that she endured physical and sexual abuse from Combs and detailed how he orchestrated the freak-offs. Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that include racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. David James testified that one of Sean Diddy Combs' assistants had to go to the hospital for dehydration after working with Combs for 24 hours straight. He said the work was demanding, but he was prepared for the moment and enjoyed it at times. He testified that there was a common saying among Combs' security guards: "You know what rhymes with tired? Fired." Okay, you don't want to get fired, okay? Isma says people are saying if the feds are accusing you. Oh, I think I read that already. Okay, so anyway, let me see what Inner City Press has. They still haven't posted anything. Okay, here we go. Now we're talking. What is this? Hold on, let me see what this is here. This is some paperwork filed today. Okay, so here's a document. Let me share my screen so you all can see this. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. You all see that? So it says, this is to the judge. Or maybe it's from the judge, Judge Aaron Subramanian. Okay, the court is in receipt of a letter from the press requesting that email communications from the parties regarding evidentiary and other issues should be docketed. Okay, by May 27th of 2025, the party should docket any correspondence to and from the court concerning evidentiary objections or applications for relief to the extent they have not been docketed. The party making the application is responsible for docketing the correspondence. Moving forward, the party should docket any email correspondence by the end of the week following the application or objection being made is so ordered. Okay, so what is the press? The press keeps requesting stuff. They wanted to see the freak off videos and all of that. Now they're requesting email communications from the parties regarding evidentiary and other issues should be docketed. That's because they want to see it. Okay, so anyway, let's see what else they got going on here. 8 minutes ago, Agnifilo says, you said he'd stay in the studio until 3 or 4 a.m. and you'd stay with him? David James says, yes, it was common. Agnifilo said, what sort of things would he want to always have with him? David James says ketchup, for example. Ketchup? The hell he's doing with ketchup? Eating burgers or fries? So then Agnifilo said, did you know he put applesauce on cheeseburgers? David James said, no, but I knew he liked applesauce. Agnifilo said he liked Astroglide, condoms, and baby oil, but you didn't expense it through the business. David James says, usually not. What? Okay, where is this all going? First of all, who puts applesauce? Who puts applesauce? AJ said Astro Sauce. Reverend of Gororo says great content and delivery. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. I absolutely appreciate you. Now, who puts applesauce on their burgers? That's very strange. When I was a kid, I used to put it on my toast with my sausage patty. Is that weird too? That's when I was like in elementary. Okay, so David James, a former assistant for Sean Diddy Combs, testified that when he purchased personal items, including condoms, baby oil, and personal lubricant for Combs, he could ask the security for cash from Combs' bag. James said that he was instructed not to submit these items for reimbursement through the company because they were items he didn't want to have a record for. Y'all see this? Please pay attention. These were items he didn't want to have a record for. So those sort of things, he didn't want that to be going through the company's documents or invoices. So defense attorney Mark Agnifilo asked James to confirm that that meant the company didn't pay for these items. He said, I mean, it's all his money. See how this man is paying attention when Agnifilo is trying to say, well, you know why that's important? Please pay attention. I'm going to explain it to you. When Agnifilo says for him to confirm that the company didn't pay for the items, why is he saying that? Well, let me tell you, that goes back to what I literally just told you about the RICO and the elements of it. Because here's the thing. So these condoms and Astroglide and all this stuff, this was all for the freak-offs. The freak-offs is how they're charging him with S trafficking by fraud, force, and coercion. So if the items for the freak-off were purchased through the company, which is the enterprise, that ties the S trafficking or illegal criminal activities to the enterprise. So that's why he's like, did this come through the company? No. Diddy was smart. He didn't have it come through the company, but the guy says, I mean, it was all his money, and it was. And the money came from Diddy's companies, his businesses anyway. So yeah, that's a pretty sneaky little trick. And that's also, like I told you all, why Diddy had Cassie paying the S workers. But I told you, if they go through his financial records and everything, they'll likely see those same amount of transactions. Because remember, the S workers said they were paid from like $700 to $7,000 or something. I think Daniel Phillips said. So if they go through his financial records and transactions and they see those specific amounts, then that's how they'll know that money from the enterprise or the businesses, whatever you want to call it, was used to pay off the S workers. Okay, this is a whole RICO. Reggie said enterprise purchases. Exactly. Okay, this is all done in furtherance of the RICO enterprise. That's what they're trying to prove. And that's why Agnifilo is trying to act like, oh, no, it didn't come from the company's funds. Okay, here's another one from Inner City Press. It says, David James says, I was told that he didn't want to run them through the company. He didn't want a record of them. And see, that's right there. The fact that this man is saying that he didn't want a record of it, that makes it even further look like a RICO. Because that makes it look like Diddy was smart enough to know that what he was doing was a federal offense. And he didn't want anything he didn't want to leave a trail of breadcrumbs to prove it. That's what that's looking like right there. Now watch when the prosecution comes back for redirect. Just watch. They'll bring it up. Okay, so anyway, Agnifilo said when you brought the 8-ball of Coca-Cola on Saint-Tropez, pronounced Saint-Tropez. That's how you pronounce it. You didn't tell Mr. Combs, did you? David James said he was asleep. Agnifilo says, tell me about your relationship with Roger Bonds. James says, we talked about Bad Boy as a family. Agnifilo said, what do you mean? James says, Mama Combs called me her son many times. Agnifilo said, what was the mission? David James said, make sure he's happy. This is all getting juicy. Okay, here comes another one. Agnifilo says, was it fun? James says, I enjoyed it from time to time. Agnifilo said, what was your relationship with Chef Jordan? James says, professional. Agnifilo says, did you choke her? James says, no. AUSA says, objection. Judge says, sidebar. So why are they having a sidebar? Well, because why is Agnifilo asking him if he choked her. Because even if he did, he's not the one on trial. Diddy is. Okay? Diddy's the one on trial, not him. Does this have anything to do with his credibility? Well, I wouldn't say that it does. Now, if he lies about it and says no, but he did actually choke her, that had something to do with his credibility. But so now they've called a sidebar. And just for you all to know, when they're calling these sidebars, the attorneys go up to the bench and they whisper and speak. The judge and themselves are only the ones listening. But see, here's the thing. What they do is they turn on this noise maker, okay, this noise so that the jury can't hear what they're whispering about. That's what they do, just so you know. Because somebody was asking me yesterday, when they have the sidebars, can't the jury hear? Because they're not that far away. And I'm like, no, they put on this noise, okay, to keep them from being able to hear what's being said. All right. So let me see what's going on here. Okay, now let's go to Lauren LaRosa on the Breakfast Club. Let's go to Lauren LaRosa on the Breakfast Club while we wait and see. Wait for other updates. Okay, it says Trump comments on Biden's cancer diagnosis, search for New Orleans inmates escaped continues. They still haven't caught those thugs. They need to catch them and quick. Y'all in New Orleans and surrounding areas, please be safe. Okay, these people have got some help. They're not just out here roaming around. And here's the thing. One of those guys has tattoos all over his face. How's nobody caught him? Hey, DSB. How has nobody come? Hey, Dr. Doom and Christy One Love. Nobody has caught them as of yet. And one of them has all these tattoos on his face. I find that interesting. Okay, so anyway, this is what they're talking about on the Breakfast Club, but I'm sure they're going to talk about Diddy too. So let's just go to that and see where we are. Now, of course, I have to use an overlay.
The Breakfast Club.
We are the Breakfast Club. Let's get in some front page news. Now, the Western Conference Final starts today. Minnesota Timberwolves taking on Oklahoma City at 8:30 tonight. And congratulations in the NFL to Shedeur Sanders. He signed a 4-year, $4.6 million contract with the Browns. So,
all you need is an opportunity, man. It don't matter where you start. All you need is an opportunity.
That's right. What's up, Morgan?
Hey, y'all. Hey, so good morning. How y'all feeling? Good on this
Blessed, black, and highly favored.
Love to hear it. All right. First up on front page, President Trump is speaking publicly for the first time after former President Biden's cancer diagnosis was announced. Yesterday, he told reporters he was surprised at the delay in the public finding out, referring to Biden's will start immediately in a post.
Is Vladimir Putin serious about negotiating peace, right? He has made some concessions. He has taken some serious steps in these conversations, but we feel like, we're at a point where we're hitting an impasse, and that's why the president is talking to him on the phone. Yeah, I think, honestly, that President Putin, he doesn't quite know how to get out of the war.
So the Trump administration has recently expressed frustrations with both parties after they failed to reach a consensus on a 30-day ceasefire proposal. So to be clear, it's only talks about a ceasefire that's happening immediately, not so much the ceasefire itself. So I'll keep you guys posted on those talks. And today, President Trump will attend a House Republican conference meeting as lawmakers work to pass what he calls his big, beautiful bill. As previously reported, the bill cleared the GOP-led budget committee in the House on Sunday. Trump is expected to make a proposal pitch to the legislation at the meeting today. It includes a major spending increase for immigration enforcement and the military, and of course, extensions to Trump's 2017 tax cuts and cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, and clean energy funding. Now, GOP lawmakers are looking at changes that could make House passage more difficult this week. I'm sure some of those cuts to programs like Medicaid and SNAP are going to be a little bit of a challenge for those House Republicans, but we will see. I'm actually going to head out to Capitol Hill after we get off air today and see if I can meet the president there as he arrives. So I will keep you guys posted tomorrow as to what all takes place on Capitol Hill today as a result of Trump's meeting. So what do you guys think about what's happening with this so-called big, beautiful bill?
You got to wait and see if it gets passed.
Yeah, this is true. All right, y'all. You're like, all right, y'all.
I was thinking, I'm interested in, the.
And you could just dig.
Okay, listen, I don't know who this lady is, but she's not, this isn't Lauren LaRosa, which leads me to think, hold on, let me cut this music off. Okay, Lauren LaRosa isn't on there. I don't know who that lady was speaking. She's somebody I've never seen on there. I don't even see Jess Hilarious. So it would be safe for me to assume that Lauren isn't going to be giving a report this morning. Maybe she had to hurry up and get to court. I don't know. Let me see here. This was from how long ago? This was from 2 hours ago. So this is the normal time that a morning report comes on, but quite frankly, I don't think Lauren has done a report yet this morning. Okay. So anyway, I know ScrewTube's going to get me because they were playing the instrumental version for New York. Okay. So anyway, with that all being said, let's listen to this burden of proof on ABC from yesterday that we missed. Okay. Inner Circle members get testimony as second week of Sean Diddy Combs' trial gets underway. All right, here we go. I'm going to share my screen.
Eva Pilgrim, thanks for streaming with us. Week 2 of testimony in the Sean Diddy Combs trial, starting with multiple witnesses who say they saw Diddy being physically violent toward his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. And for the first time, the public can see the stark visual evidence of the violence Cassie testified that she suffered at the hands of Combs. We want to warn you that some of these images can be disturbing. The government releasing a new batch of images showing injuries Cassie described, plus thousands of dollars of cash found in a fanny pack, drugs, and baby oil, all allegedly used during the sex parties witnesses have detailed. Earlier in the day, Dawn Richard, a former member of the girl group Danity Kane, wrapped up her testimony against Combs. She allegedly saw Combs abuse Cassie multiple times and urged Cassie to leave him. She testified about one incident saying, quote, Puff and Cassie were in the hallway arguing. He punched her in the face. Sean Combs punched her in the face. But on cross-examination, the defense questioning Richard about changing her story several times over the years. Also taking the stand today, Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. She described witnessing Combs assaulting Cassie twice, the first time in a home Combs was renting in the Hollywood Hills. Morgan testified that, quote, I saw him push her. I'm pretty sure he hit her. The second time allegedly happened in Jamaica. Morgan says they were in the bar area of a home when, quote, I heard her screaming. She recalled guttural, terrifying screams. Combs faces the possibility of life in prison if convicted. He's pleaded not guilty and has denied all wrongdoing. We have our team of reporter and analysts closely following the case from inside the courtroom. Coming up a little later, we're joined in the studio by one of Sean Combs's close friends who has been at court every day of this trial. But we begin in Lower Manhattan with our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky. He was in court all day. He joins us now outside the federal courthouse. Aaron, former Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money member Dawn Richard back on the witness stand today. She says she saw Diddy punch Cassie Ventura in the face. What was the reaction in the courtroom?
You know, I think this jury has heard so much already that has been so graphic and disturbing that any one instance, Eva, hasn't necessarily caused a reaction. The jury was much more interested, I think, in the cross-examination as her accounts were challenged. But this involved a festival in Central Park, where apparently Diddy Dirty Money was going to be announced as a band. She and her bandmate Kalina Harper were with Cassie Ventura getting ready in a bathroom in Combs's home, his apartment, she testified, when heard screaming, and then with a closed fist saw that Sean Combs had hit Cassie Ventura in the face. And what was notable was how she followed up the testimony that Cassie started crying, came into the bathroom, and immediately started putting on copious amounts of makeup, and she wore sunglasses to the festival to try and cover up the injury. And Dawn Richard said she and Kalina Harper donned sunglasses also, a form of solidarity.
There were some things, Aaron, that Richard was not allowed to talk about on the stand. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, the defense had tried to limit the scope of her testimony, in some cases successfully, because the defense believes that much of Richard's account and much of the prosecutor's whole case is based on gossip about what people heard, about stories people would tell about Sean Combs. So she couldn't get into any of that. But what she witnessed, she said, was Sean Combs try to take a swing at Cassie Ventura with a frying pan, the instance where punched her with a closed fist, and then another instance in Los Angeles that she said she witnessed when Sean Combs punched Cassie Ventura in the stomach at a restaurant. They were there having dinner with other celebrities, she said, to include Usher and Neo at the time.
You mentioned the jury was much more interested in what happened during her cross-examination. What happened?
The cross-examination involved defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland challenging Dawn Richard's memory and her accounts, which she noted in some cases changed up to 4 times when she recalled specifics one way and then another and then another and then another. And finally, Dawn Richard said she was recalling things to the best of her ability, but the defense sought to portray her as someone whose memory could not be relied on by the jury, somebody who was out for money, who sued her, Sean Combs, in civil court, and somebody who may have been out more for revenge because she was angry that Sean Combs eventually dismantled the 2 groups she was part of, Diddy Dirty Money, and before that, Danity Kane.
I also want to talk about the reported freak-off in 2016 at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. That came up again today. Carrie Morgan was on the stand. That was Cassie Ventura's former best friend. What did Carrie say happened after that incident?
Cassie Ventura left the Intercontinental Hotel, went back to her apartment, her home, and there was Carrie Morgan waiting. She said immediately she saw the black eye that Ventura had testified Combs gave her after the freak-off got violent, and the whole reason why then the subsequent assault in the hallway happened. And then Carrie Morgan said about a half hour later, Sean Combs starts banging on the door with a hammer. It was not let in, but she said she heard him yelling, finally called some of Combs' staff members to try to get him to leave. Police were called, but Cassie Ventura said, and Carrie Morgan backed this up, that nothing ever came of it because Cassie Ventura refused to say anything about Sean Combs and what happened to her.
Aaron, I have to ask you, because Combs was sitting just feet away from Dawn Richard and Carrie Morgan in court today. How did he react to seeing them and hearing all of this?
He's been an attentive listener. In some cases, he would shake his head or nod along or consult with his lawyers, scribbling a lot of notes. This was an important part of the testimony because it made a turn, Eva. The jury had heard from Cassie Ventura directly about, in rather explicit terms, a lot of the sex acts. But the prosecution's whole case is that she was coerced into that sex because of the violence, the kind of violence that both Dawn Richard and Carrie Morgan said they witnessed. Now, the defense says there are other reasons for the violence. Jealousy, drugs, didn't have anything to do with coercing her into sex. But the prosecutors want the jury to hear these accounts to say that Cassie Ventura was not only telling the truth about being beat up, but that she had reason to then go along with Sean Combs' sexual demands.
Aaron Katursky for us there outside the courthouse. Thank you so much, Aaron. And let's bring in ABC News legal contributor and criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Bernardo de Olona, who was also inside of that courtroom today. Okay, so I want to start with just big picture today, what were some of the moments that stood out to you?
So big picture today, just like how Aaron stated. So in terms of the biggest moment, one of the biggest moments is when Kerry Morgan testified. And when she specifically testified is to give us the back end of what happened after that Intercontinental video. So she states that Cassie was in the house and of course had that visible black eye. But in addition to that, that while she was sitting there, that Sean Combs came to the door banging with a hammer continuously to the point where officers responded to the location hours later. But guess who didn't call the police? Kerry Morgan didn't call the police, nor did Cassie call the police. So it must have been loud enough that neighbors called the police and eventually responded to the location. But unfortunately, Cassie, she wasn't cooperative with the police and didn't even provide them with her identification.
Dawn Richard finished her testimony today. Give us the cliff notes here.
So in terms of Dawn Richard, now dealing with Dawn Richard, look, her testimony, sure, during direct examination, she did fine on Friday. But remember, you can't tell how good a witness is until they get to cross-examination. And the defense did an excellent job with Dawn Richard today because, like was stated, she gave different versions as to what this assault took place, how it took place, whether Cassie was struck with the frying pan, whether he threw it to the wall, or whether he threatened her. It was 4 different versions, and the defense was able to cross-examine and weaken her credibility and also show that she has an axe to grind.
You already mentioned the second witness today, Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Kerry Morgan. What did Kerry have to say?
So let me tell you, Kerry Morgan is crucial. And she came crucial because she comes off as credible. Because one of the first statements that she made is that she came here because she was compelled to testify. She no longer speaks to Cassie Ventura. They stopped talking in 2018 after this incident having to deal with where she was assaulted by Sean Combs, where Sean Combs grabbed her by the neck and also threw a wooden hanger at her. But also that it led to Cassie giving her $30,000 so she wouldn't say anything about that specific incident. And that was the end of their relationship. She also corroborated 2 of the assaults that took place, having to deal with Cassie in terms of her being drugged and as well as her being punched. So she corroborated a lot of the testimony, but she came off as a neutral witness. And the defense wasn't able to break her as they wanted to, but was able to say that, look, it was still a loving relationship.
People have been critical of the defense. How do you think they did today on cross?
So today they were able to rebound. Now this defense, so we're looking at Mark Agnifilo. Mark Agnifilo was a person who cross-examined Kerry Morgan. So remember, with every witness, you're not going to get a Matlock moment. But he was able to get bits of pieces from Kerry Morgan in the sense of saying, like, look, they were in a loving relationship. You know, you had told them to break up, but you also told them to stay together because of how much they loved each other. Also was able to get, like, look, there were a lot of good times. There were a lot of fun times. There were a lot of party times. This was something that was normal amongst each other, but they did great today.
Let's talk about what we're seeing today. Photos from Diddy's 2016 hotel room from the Intercontinental have now been entered into evidence. The images show baby oil, medications, substances that tested positive for ketamine. Yeah, we've got the pictures right here. Why do these photos matter?
So this is really important. It's important in the sense that on the day that Sean Combs was arrested, this is what they found inside of his hotel room. And what they specifically found is what Cassie had been talking about all along. The setup for the freak off. There was a strobe light that was there. The drugs, the money, the baby oil. And specifically in terms of the money, remember that the second witness that testified, Mr. Phillip, that he was paid somewhere in a couple $100 up to $6,000. There was $9,000 that was recovered here, but hey, inflation, everything has gone up, right? So this testimony and these photographs actually corroborate the testimony of Cassie, and I'm sure that's going to corroborate the other testimony of witnesses that are going to testify, but pretty much showing a pattern of what these freak-offs encompass.
And again, these found the day he was arrested.
Yes, years later, and still we're freaking off.
Bernardo, thank you so much for being
you.
here. And still ahead, why there's so much interest in rapper Young Miami when it comes to this trial. And up next, one of Diddy's close friends spanning decades joins me live here in the studio. Stay with us. Welcome back. You are watching Burden of Proof, the case against Diddy. Tonight, a glimpse into Sean Combs' inner circle as the hip-hop mogul faces sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy charges, all of which he has denied. Joining us here in studio, Combs' longtime friends, Charlucci Finney. You have known Combs for 35 plus years. You got your sweatshirt on. We've seen you in the sweatshirt a lot. Free Puff.
Yes.
You've been sitting in the courtroom. And I understand
Every day,
he's actually choosing who of his circle gets to be in the courtroom with him. So you are very inner circle.
Yes, ma'am.
Who is the Sean Combs that you know?
Oh man, funny, kind, creative. Just a visionary. He's a dad. He's a son. He's an uncle. He's a cousin, and he's my brother. He's my friend.
So many people not standing by his side in this moment. Why have you chosen to stay there?
I didn't have a choice. That's my brother, and I'm going to ride with him.
I have to ask you, he's charged with racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. He's pleaded not guilty. Does that sound like the friend that you know?
Absolutely not.
Do you think he did those things?
Absolutely not.
You seem pretty confident of that. Why are you so confident of that?
Because
this man's living in la la land, and they need to stop letting him go on all these different outlets because he's just making himself look bad. Okay, so let me just give you all the last update before the 10-minute break that they're currently on. So 1 minute ago, during the cross-examination of David James, the former assistant of Sean Diddy Combs, he talked of a time that he was in an altercation with one of Combs' chefs and about how Combs confronted him about it. Okay, so when asked by defense attorney Mark Agnifilo, James acknowledged that he got into an altercation with one of Combs' then chefs, a woman, at Combs' Star Island home in Florida. James testified that he grew upset when the chef tried to tell him where Combs needed to be. James said that he grabbed her two wrists and squeezed her wrist and told her to stay in her lane. The altercation was reported to Human Resources at Bad Boy Entertainment and eventually made its way back to Combs, who confronted James, the ex-assistant. Okay, and then when he told Combs what happened, Combs told James, "You can't be putting your hands on women," and warned that he'd have to fire James if it happened again. The nerve, right? Combs told him to write the chef a note and get her a gift. James did so, and she eventually forgave him. Diddy knows how to do it, honey. He said, write her a note and get her a gift. Okay, please pay attention. This is all nefarious. All right, let's continue.
Because that's not who he is. Those are allegations, right? And they have to prove the allegations. They have to prove that. I've seen nothing, and no one else seen that. The only thing you're hearing about is domestic violence. You're not hearing anything about the sex trafficking. You're not hearing nothing. I'm waiting for I'm waiting for the government to show us everything that they promised us. When I mean us, I'm talking about the viewers, friends, family. You said he did all these hellacious and crazy things. I want to see it.
Let's talk about some of what we heard in court. We've heard that testimony from Cassie, a lot about how he's controlled her life. Did you know him to be a controlling man?
Not really. I mean, he's pretty fair. I mean,
the choosing the nail polish and the clothes and the
when you're in the music business, right? And you're a creative and you're an executive producer, you can't just have your artists just running out, just any way they want to look. It's a look they have to have, right? She has to be clean. Her nails have to be done. Her hair has to be, what I'm saying? It's a certain style you give the artist. And Bad Boy had a certain type of style that the artists presented. They represented Bad Boy.
Where was the line between artist and his girlfriend?
You would have to ask them on that. I don't know. But all I know is that when you're developing an artist, you have an idea of how you want that artist to look. I mean, Prince didn't really walk outside with chaps with his butt out. He really didn't walk around the street like that, right? But that was his image, and that's what he needed. Michael Jackson didn't walk around the way he did when he walked on stage with the one glove and the shiny stuff. It's the image, and you have to stick with that image if you're trying to create an artist a look. You have to go with the look.
There have been some shocking things discussed in court. The freak-offs, for one.
Yeah,
Did you know about the freak-offs?
No.
You didn't know about the freak-offs. When you heard about the freak-offs and what were happening, were you surprised?
No, I just thought that was their personal business. It was two consenting adults doing grown consenting adult things that they like to do.
Did you ever see or know of Diddy to get violent with Cassie or with anyone else?
No.
You never saw any violence at all?
Never.
The surveillance video that is of the hotel that has become pretty infamous at this point. When you watch that video, what do you see?
I see what y'all see. I seen him in a domestic situation with a girlfriend, and it wasn't good. It's never good. It's never good for a man to put a hand on a woman or a woman to put a hand on a man. Everybody should keep their hands to themselves. But that's domestic, and that's not what he's being charged with. He's being charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, and prostitution. I want to stick to, that's what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about that because that's.
So Cassie testified that that was the one time she tried to leave a freak off. The defense has said she was free to go. Do you think she was free to leave?
Yes, I agree with the defense. They know more than I would know. That's not my area of expertise. But looking at it and understanding and hearing the testimonies, yes, I agree with them.
The drug addiction, the drug use, did you know about that?
No, I did not.
Did you hear about the overdose? Did you have any idea?
Never heard about that.
You guys are pretty close. I mean,
Yeah.
35 years.
Yeah, but certain things, you don't tell the closest people everything. You tell them some things, but you don't tell them everything because there's a life, then there's a private life, and that was his private life, and that was their private life, and they shared that moment amongst them too.
I have to ask you because people have noticed you and Sean Combs exchanging looks in the courtroom.
Yes.
What are the looks about?
He's telling me, don't worry about him. He's okay. He's focused. He's selfless. So he's concerned about how I feel, how his sister feel, how his mom feel, how his kids feel. He's telling everybody, be calm. I don't want y'all all upset. He's in jail worrying about us.
Because you've been walking his family in every day.
Yes.
Are you going to be there tomorrow?
I'm gonna be there every day.
Every day till the trial's over.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much for coming here today.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, Cassie Ventura's former best friend.
Okay, I didn't mean to stop the share. My bad.
Welcome back. More on the Sean Diddy Combs trial in just a minute. But first, let's get you up to speed on some of the other big court cases we're following. Day 18 in the Karen Reed murder retrial in Massachusetts. On the stand today, a DNA analyst. He testified about a hair sample taken from Reed's SUV, saying he's 95% sure that 99.9% of the population can be excluded, but not excluded John O'Keefe. Reed has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder charges in the 2022 death of her then-boyfriend, who was also a Boston police officer. Svetlana, the alleged stowaway, now heading to trial. Opening statements expected to start tomorrow. Svetlana Dali is accused of sneaking onto a Delta flight from New York to Paris just before Thanksgiving. Video obtained by ABC shows her walking up to a terminal gate, then following behind a group of passengers being ushered towards the jet bridge. Dali has pleaded not guilty in that case. And the trial for a former Minnesota Twins pitcher now underway in California. Dan Serafini is accused of ambushing and killing his father-in-law and attempting to kill his mother-in-law in 2021. Samantha Scott, the family's nanny and Serafini's alleged mistress, has pleaded guilty to being an accomplice in the case. His wife is expected to take the stand on his behalf. Serafini has pleaded not guilty to the charges. The Sean Diddy Combs trial begins its second week of testimony. We are taking a look at the top internet searches related to this high-profile trial in a segment we call Searched. Some of today's biggest search terms include Carrie Morgan, Young Miami, Aubrey O'Day, and the question of whether Combs could walk free. ABC News contributor Kelly Carter joins us now from Los Angeles. She covers entertainment and pop culture for us. Okay, let's look at some of these searches. Cassie Ventura's former best friend took the stand today. She's one of the names that was being searched. What do we know about her?
Yeah, here's what we know about her. She was a former model. The two of them met when they were teenagers and eventually lived together at some point. And she, on stand today, she testified that she was assaulted with a wooden hanger, and that action kind of ended her friendship with Cassie. But, she also talked about traveling the world, essentially with her and spending time with Cassie and Sean Combs, and said that there was love there, in her testimony today.
Carisha Brownlee, aka Young Miami, coming up in a lot of searches. Why is everyone so interested in her relationship with Combs?
Yeah, Young Miami, who's a city girl, and she dated Sean Combs, and not only dated him, but had a podcast on his network, Revolt Network. And in the first podcast that she had, she sat down and interviewed him about their relationship. My guess is that podcast segment is probably going way up with the numbers right now, because people are looking for clues or looking for anything that maybe the two of them would have given in their relationship that might somehow, some way shed a little bit of light about how he operates inside of relationships.
Another search we're seeing, Aubrey O'Day. Will she testify? Who is she? Why could she be important?
Aubrey O'Day is a former member of Danity Kane, which obviously was the group that was founded on the iteration of making the band that Sean Combs oversaw. Listen, the people have been wanting to see Aubrey Day on the stand, because she quite frankly has been very vocal about what she says are problematic things with Sean Combs. She actually had a solo reality show on Oxygen about 15 years back. And I remember, because I watched every episode of that show, it ended with her making a phone call to him. He did not pick up, but she really, kind of made the point that she wanted to release herself from what she said, were burdens, being tied to Sean Combs at that time.
Lastly, we have the search, could Diddy walk free?
Yeah, everyone wants to know. I think we're seeing in real time people learning a little bit about the judicial system, which is interesting, because unlike the OJ trial from 30 years ago, when we saw, a lot of what happened in courtroom, we're not seeing that. We're only reading about it, and people just want to know what's at stake and if he actually might be able to be found not guilty.
Kelly Carter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us as well. We'll be back with new episodes every day of the trial. The show streams right here on ABC News Live, Disney Plus, and Hulu weekdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. For even more on the Diddy trial, make sure to follow our podcast, Bad Rap, The Case Against Diddy, hosted by our very own Brian Buckmeyer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. I'm Eve Pilgrim in New York. Have a good rest of the day.
Criminal trial attorney Sarah Azari right here. Sarah, thank you for being here, especially because you've been there down at the courthouse. You've been listening to some of this testimony. First, let's talk about these text messages that the defense has been showing. These are Cassie Ventura text messages. What do you make of them?
Well, Gio, they tell a completely different story than her direct examination. They go beyond consent to show that she had agency to make her own choices. She had autonomy, and she wasn't just a willing participant. She was asking for the free cops. It also appears to me, Gio, that this was a relationship where she wanted more than she was getting. That's what the text messages indicate to me. And that she was using the free cops as a way to find space in Sean Combs's life for herself. But she was really in a different category. She was, after 7 years, she had not met his kids. She was not one of the girlfriends or the baby mamas that would go on trips with Combs. And the free cops was what she was using to sort of secure her place in his life. But that's still consent. Right? And where are we in this Me Too movement? Are we going to allow the government now to get into our bedrooms and our private sex lives, no matter how freaky they are? Are we going to ignore the charges and the elements of those charges and say, we don't care about consent because this is a really bad guy and he did disgusting things, that he's guilty of racketeering, sex trafficking, where it's really domestic violence on the stand?
And as you've said, that what the jury is hearing is really, graphic.
They're disgusted with him. And that's the danger here. The government, I don't think, has a case, Gio. I've said this from the beginning. And if they had a case, they wouldn't be cheating like they are with Don Richard. They brought Don Richard after Cassie. Cassie never testified about a 2009 incident. And surprise, surprise, Don Richard is testifying about a 2009 incident with a skillet, that where Sean Combs hits Cassie.
Why wouldn't she testify to that?
Well, she's trying to show that there was violence and that he uses violence and coercion to essentially sex traffic. And Cassie is the sex trafficking victim. And, the defense is trying to divorce this conflation of violence and domestic violence with what really matters in this trial, which is racketeering, sex trafficking, and prostitution, right? But the government's trying to conflate these so that they could get a guilty. It's really, to me, when the government cheats, that means they don't really have a case. And I'm seeing cheating going on with Dawn Richard. Dawn Richard should not be allowed to testify further about what she saw and then, the intimidation afterwards by Diddy.
What are you watching for next week?
What I'm watching for is, look, I think the defense used great tactic in not going hard on Cassie because she was likable. She was a victim of abuse. But I think they need to go hard on some of these other witnesses. I think they really need to focus on money as motive. Let's not forget she made $30 million here. That's not a joke, right? They need to also show additional inconsistencies, and they really need to try to divorce the domestic violence and the violent part of Diddy from sex trafficking. And there's a lot of predicate acts that were testified to. The arson on Kid Cudi's car. I mean, there was a number of them that Cassie testified to, and the defense has to really parse this out and show that this is not trafficking or racketeering.
Fair to say this is all messy.
It's a big, hot mess.
All right. Sarah Azari, thank you so much. We so appreciate it. And be sure to follow our show here every day of the Diddy trial at 5:30 on Hulu, YouTube, and Disney+. And for more on the Diddy trial, check out our podcast, Bad Rap, the case against Diddy, hosted by our very own Brian Buckmeyer, wherever you listen to your podcast.
For student loan forgiveness.
This administration can't unilaterally take it away without an act of Congress.
But
it is under threat. And so borrowers need to be prepared to both document what they've done, get those employment certificates.
All right. So that all being said, beloveds, hold on for a second. Okay, was that the end of the broadcast? I'm sorry, I wasn't watching. I was multitasking and looking at something else. Okay. So anyway, hold on. Let me see if there's any more updates. Let me see what we have here. Okay, so Inner City Press says, AUSA says, what have we asked you to do? James says, tell the truth. AUSA says, nothing further. Now here comes the recross. Agnifilo says, you lied to Mr. Combs about filing the police report. James says, yes. Agnifilo says, nothing further. Could we have a break? And that's when they went to break. But now they're back. And the judge says, jurors, I'm going to try to get the temperature turned up in here. I'm told it's complicated, but I'm freezing right along with you. Okay, AUSA, and then people start laughing apparently. Then AUSA says the government calls Regina Ventura. Cassie's mom takes the stand. AUSA says, where do you live? Regina Ventura says, New London, Connecticut. AUSA says, how many children do you have? Regina Ventura says, 2, Roderick and Cassandra. AUSA says, who is this? She says, Sean Combs. He dated my daughter. Ooh, honey, it's about to get real. Now that's from Inner City Press. Let's see what CNN has to say about all of it. They have any updates as of yet. Okay, so 3 minutes ago, after the break, they report that the jury is back and is now in court and the proceedings are resuming. Prosecutors have called Regina Ventura, Cassie's mother, to the stand. Prosecutor Emily Johnson is questioning Regina Ventura, for the government. All right, so stay tuned, honey. This is all juicy. All juicy. Joy said they should put Shine on the stand. Shine's over there in Belize. He probably can't say anything about this stuff because all of this stuff happened after he came around. I mean, most of it anyway. When you think about it, Shine was in prison, okay?
light shining down, and the moonlight girl can't help but feel this connection flow with every move. Go along the floor where you smile. Makes me want more. Heartbeat and sing. At the sound of soul, tonight we dance. Just lose control.
Let's go to Fox and see what they're talking about. If they're giving any updates like they were doing the other day.
Yeah, it's like it's over 1,000 pages.
Okay. Okay, so update from Inner City Press. So remember, Cassie's mom is on the stand. She talks about Diddy dating her daughter. Now, Regina Ventura says she said Sean Combs threatened to release an SEX tape and go after her and Mr. Muscuddy, which is Kid Cudi. Okay, AUSA says, how did you react? Regina Ventura says, it made me sick. Sean Combs demanded $20,000. He said to recoup losses due to Mr. Muscuddy from my husband and myself. AUSA says, when did you meet Sean Combs? She says, in 2006, my daughter signed with the Bad Boy Records and he was her boss. Then they started dating. They moved to LA. AUSA says, read the message from December of 2011. Regina Ventura says, Cassandra wrote to me. Okay, that's where it stops right there. That's from 2 minutes ago. Okay, here she says, Sean threatened to release. Okay, that's the same thing. Okay, so we're waiting to see what comes after that. I want to know what's in this letter that she wrote to her mom. Okay, now CNN says from 1 minute ago. Hold on. Okay, prosecutor Emily Johnson asked Regina Ventura to identify Sean Diddy Combs in a photo and explain how she knew him. She says he dated my daughter. Okay, Regina Ventura said that she met Combs in 2006. Regina Ventura said her daughter and Combs started dating. Okay, they moved to California with Combs, or Cassie moved to California with Combs. Ventura said that she saw her less frequently, usually around holidays. Now pay attention to her mom saying that she saw her usually around holidays. Well, that's because Diddy wasn't hanging with her on holidays. Okay, it was harder to get to her, she said. So Cassie's mother, Regina Ventura, who's expected to take the stand later today. I don't know why this is after what they just said, but this is what it says. So expected to take the stand later today, may help prosecutors make the argument that her daughter was coerced and can speak to Cassie's state of mind. Okay, CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson gave this information to CNN's Kate Baldwin on Tuesday. She says, he says, I think they're going to get to any behavioral differences as it relates to Cassie's behavior when she got into the relationship with Sean Diddy Combs versus ongoing and ending the relationship. That speaks to whether she's coerced. Okay, it speaks to her real state of mind, because this issue of coercion is a big battleground. You either were a freak off, or you either were a freak and you did this and you knew what you were doing, or you did it because you were forced to do it, so to speak. Prosecutors have said Combs ran a criminal racketeering enterprise in which he and some of his inner circle coerced women into participating in these rug-fueled SEX performances called freak-offs. Combs has pleaded not guilty to the charges. Okay. Jackson said that Cassie Ventura's mother could testify if her daughter ever shared her feelings with her about the incidents as a recent outcry. That's admissible evidence. It's not hearsay, and it goes to the critical issue of whether she was consenting. From a defense perspective, it's a nightmare to cross-examine a mother. Prosecutors have said Regina Ventura can testify that in December of 2011, Combs demanded $20,000. Okay, they said defense attorney Mark Agnifilo argued she should not be allowed to say that in court, as it can be prejudicial to Combs, but the judge said no. They'll let it happen and they'll deal with it again. Deal with it later. So what do you all think? American Isn't says she's not an S worker, she's a girlfriend. Well, I agree with you. She wasn't an S worker. I agree. I also think that she wanted to do these freak offs because she wanted to please Diddy. She wanted to do whatever Diddy wanted her to do. That's my opinion. Now, that doesn't make it right that Diddy was beating the crap out of her, because clearly he was. Did y'all see those bruises? I'm talking about that chunk missing out of her eyebrow. That was just it for me. And I'm sure he's probably done even worse. But that right there, and then breaking Kim Porter's nose allegedly, all this stuff is all crazy as hell, okay? All crazy as hell. And here's the thing. Diddy isn't a badass, because when you think about the men that Diddy attacked, he always did that when there was somebody else with him, never by himself one-on-one. He always had his bodyguards or some of his entourage with him. So he's not really a Billy Badass. And most men who like to put paws on women, they're cowards anyway. They're really not going to fight a man straight up one-on-one. Either they're going to have a weapon or they're going to have somebody there to back them up. And that's what Diddy did. That's what he always did, okay? It's all crazy. Okay, so anyway, while we're waiting for further updates.
In other news, Georgia residents are going to be happy to hear this.
Let me see what's going on here. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. You all remember that video we saw with Dawn Richard yesterday, right? Hold on. Let's go back to that. Oh, they were just heckling her. It was all nefarious. Y'all remember that from last night? I'm going to share the screen. Hold on. These people are so ghetto. Some people are.
Have a good day.
Yeah, how big is Diddy's dick?
That's gross.
I get the 10 million
now, man. Monetization. You're going too far. Yeah,
I want
man.
to get my ass beat for 10 million. I want to get my ass beat for 10 million. Isn't it freedom of speech? You have freedom of speech?
Have a good day, Dawn. Have a good day.
What is wrong with people? And you know, the thing is, if she wanted to know that stuff, or she wanted to get her A beat for 10 million, why is she telling Dawn? Why is she just randomly yelling that out? Black Gospel said that's funny. I mean, even if that's the way she felt, why are you yelling that out in the midst of a crowd, lady? Like, sit down somewhere. And some people are crazy. Okay? Some people are absolutely nefarious. It's all a hot mess. How big is Diddy's? And why is she asking Dawn? Just harassing Dawn after she done sat up there and told all them darn lies, because that's what she was telling, if you ask me. Dawn's testimony, in my opinion, was a waste of time. I really wish she hadn't got up on that stand, because that's probably what's going to get Diddy overturned. Okay? Or at least they're going to use that to try to get his arrest overturned once he's convicted. Yeah, I find it all interesting. Hold on. Let me see what's going on here. CNN. Okay, let's go to CNN, because they're on here. Let me share my screen.
Her home, Morgan was there. She said that it was that Combs had showed up and was banging on the door with a hammer. Morgan testified that she was terrified. The police ultimately came, but Ventura did not speak to them. She wouldn't identify herself. And she said later that Ventura had not wanted her to talk to the authorities, and that Ventura felt like she couldn't leave Combs because he was in control of her career. And we also heard today from a personal assistant to Combs who became emotional on the witness stand when he testified about his interview at Bad Boy Records to become his personal assistant. This assistant, David James, testified that he was told by the head of human resources that this is Mr. Combs's kingdom and we're all here to serve him. He also testified about
I haven't been to the grocery store in over a year, but I'm eating healthier than ever. Here's how I did it. Meal planning used to be
and Ventura told him, James testified, that she couldn't leave because Combs was in charge of her career and so she couldn't leave. He'll be back on the witness stand tomorrow. It was interesting, when he was leaving the courtroom, he looked over at Combs, he nodded at him, and Combs nodded back toward him. So this testimony clearly not helpful for Combs' defense. Casey?
Well, and Elliot Williams, to that point, I mean, why is this all such a focus? It seems to be that they need to prove that this was against her will in order to prove sex trafficking, because we saw those opening statements where it's basically said, well, domestic violence is not sex trafficking. What are your takeaways from what we learned today?
And Casey, you just beautifully laid out what the law on sex trafficking is. Look, no one disputes, and I don't think Sean Combs would dispute, the existence of these sex acts and somewhat, let's say, avant-garde sex parties that took place. Now, the question is, for what he's been charged with, you would have to show some level of force, fraud, or coercion in getting people to participate in them. And what you're seeing here, at least what the prosecutors are attempting to put on, is establishing a pattern of not just acts, but acts of force that led to the acts. And what's not helping Sean Combs is that what seems like every time he gets a useful piece of evidence, there's a countervailing piece of evidence of him beating up the person who gave it. There was testimony today about whether Cassie and the other, Carrie Morgan is the name, voluntarily went on trips. Well, there's also evidence that he beat both of them, one of them with a coat hanger. This is certainly not useful evidence for a defendant who is attempting to undermine these questions of whether he used force, fraud, or coercion to get people to go along with his behavior.
Yeah, really awful. All right, Kara Scannell, Elliot Williams, thank you both very much for being here.
As the sex trafficking and racketeering trial against Sean Diddy Combs continues today. Yesterday, Dawn Richard, a former member of the pop group Danity Kane, took the stand, and she testified that she witnessed Combs beating his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, on multiple occasions. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman is outside the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. She joins us now with more on this. Good morning to you, Katrina. What else did we learn from Dawn Richard? And I'm wondering what really stood out to you during her testimony, the type of thing we don't see in the transcripts.
Yeah. Good morning, Errol. I mean, what really stood out was her stories of the abuse that she witnessed. There was one in particular she told about a time when Cassie Ventura was making eggs for Sean Combs at his house. Don Richard was there along with Kalina Harper. They were in a trio with Sean Combs called Danity Kane, or sorry, it was Diddy Dirty Money. She was in multiple groups with Sean Combs, and she saw Sean Combs come down, attempt to hit Cassie with a frying pan, and then saw him drag her upstairs, and she heard the sounds of beating. But one thing that was significant about Richard's testimony is this was the first time we saw a really aggressive cross-examination from Combs' team. They were poking holes in her story, Errol, showing different times that she told it. There were interviews with the government and how the narrative changed a bit each time. But one thing that stood out to me is she said that she tells the story as she remembers it, and that the more she thinks about that time, the more she has remembered. That it was a really difficult moment in time for her, a terrible work environment, and memories that she repressed. And it reminded me of something that Cassie Ventura said in a statement that her lawyer read after her testimony about how the more she remembers, the more she heals. And she said, the more she remembers, she can also never forget. And so I think there is also something with survivors where they repress these memories, and we're hearing that from these witnesses on the stand.
So it seems, Katrina, that the prosecution wanted to start with a really standout witness in Cassie Ventura and then have witnesses who corroborate components of her testimony. I know that Ventura's ex-friend and Combs's former personal assistant testified on Monday. What did we learn from them?
Errol, well, one thing is that Cassie Ventura is their star witness, but she was also 8.5 months pregnant on the stand. So they really had to put her first. But with these other witnesses, we are starting to hear echoes of her story, different perspectives on the same one that are corroborating a lot of what she talked about. And Carrie Morgan is a key witness because she was Ventura's best friend for 17 years. She was present for a lot of these incidents with Sean Combs. There was one story she told that sounded like it was the same day that the incident at the Intercontinental Hotel happened. That's the one that we've seen security footage of where Combs appears to be assaulting Cassie Ventura. So later they were at Cassie's apartment. Carrie Morgan was there, and Combs came and tried to break through the door with a hammer. Morgan testified that Ventura was just sitting on the couch, numb, and she said, I don't think she cared if he came in and killed her. She was just sitting there. Morgan also testified about 2 other really harrowing incidents where she saw Ventura being abused by Combs, and both of which they ended up going and hiding from him, Errol. So she was a really significant witness on the stand to corroborate that testimony that we heard from Cassie Ventura. We also heard from a former personal assistant of Sean Combs at the end of yesterday. He began crying almost immediately, Errol, just talking about his time working for Combs. And one thing that he said that really stood out was that he was told, this is Mr. Combs' kingdom, and we're all here to serve in it.
Wow, pretty chilling stuff. Katrina Kaufman, thank you.
The best way to
Okay, they didn't say one word about those inconsistencies in Dawn's story, did they? That's what they didn't do. Okay, so let's talk about the latest updates. Okay, so this is from CNN. 3 minutes ago, they say, Regina Ventura, Cassandra Ventura's mother, testified that her daughter emailed her in December of 2011 to say that Combs was threatening to release an explicit SEX tape of her. This appears to mesh with Cassie Ventura's earlier testimony that Combs threatened Cassie in December of 2011. This is when he learned that she was dating Scott Muscuddy, also known as rapper Kid Cudi. Now, the email said, according to Regina Ventura, said that the threats that have been made towards me by Sean Puffy Combs are that he's going to release 2 explicit S tapes of me, one on Christmas Day, maybe before or right after, and another one sometime after that. He has also said that he will be having someone hurt me and Scott Muscuddy physically. He made a point that it wouldn't be by his hands. He actually said that he'd be out of the country when it happened. Regina Ventura said she felt physically sick when she read the email. The message was sent under an alias, Veronica Bang. The email also was sent to one of Combs' employees. Regina says, I did not understand a lot of it. The S tapes threw me. I did not know the other person, but knew that he was going to try to hurt my daughter. Can you imagine somebody sending this to you about your own damn child? Diddy is the devil, honey. Diddy, you're going down. Regina Ventura, the mother of Cassandra Ventura, said Sean Diddy Combs contacted her around the same time Cassie Ventura told her that he had threatened her to release those explicit videos. Regina Ventura said that he told her he needed $20,000 to recoup money that he had spent on Cassie Ventura. Regina Ventura said Combs was angry with her daughter and was now that he was angry that she was now in a relationship with Kid Cudi. Regina Ventura said that she and her husband took a home equity loan to obtain the $20,000. Combs' bookkeeper sent Regina Ventura an email with wiring instructions. So she went to the credit union and then wired the money from her and her husband's account to the bad boy account. This is all easily proven through bank transactions. Regina Ventura said she did it because she was scared about her daughter's safety. Who wouldn't? If you know this man has all this money, he's a whole billionaire, and he's already threatened to release explicit tapes, and then he said that he's going to cause harm to your daughter, well, of course you'd be scared. She said about 4 or 5 days later, the money was returned to her account, but she did not have any communications with Combs about it. So this is from a minute ago. The jury is now seeing photos of Cassie Ventura that her mother took in December of 2011 in her parents' Connecticut home after Sean Diddy Combs physically, allegedly assaulted her. Regina Ventura testified that she took the photos to keep the evidence. She was bruised, and I wanted to make sure that we memorialized it. Regina Ventura said her daughter told her at the time that she was beaten by Sean Combs. These photos were first admitted into evidence during Cassie Ventura's testimony. Regina Ventura said December of 2011 was the first time her daughter had told her about Combs being physical with her. Regina Ventura testified about a time prior to that when she read a blind item about a celebrity getting beat up in a car with no names included. She said she asked her daughter if it was her, but Cassie Ventura told her it wasn't about her and Combs. Okay, honey, they're putting the nails in Diddy's coffin, honey. I just want y'all to pay attention. Oh my goodness, Reggie literally said, Reggie, you literally took the words out of my brain, honey. That's exactly what I was sitting there saying. This is a nail in Diddy's coffin. Yes. Diddy, you're going down, buddy. DJ Big Six said, why did she call the cops? Because she was scared. Okay. Why didn't she call the cops? Because she was scared. And let us not forget, I mean, this man has all this money and power. You don't think he knows cops? Let's not forget that some of the people doing security were Diddy were cops. Okay. Some of these people doing security with him were cops. So let's not forget about Fahim Muhammad, who was Diddy's chief of security at some point, right? So Diddy had connections to the cops. Tell the cops and then what? Okay, that's what I would have been thinking. Tell the cops and then what? All right, please. At the end of the day, DJ Big Six, you know that by now. This man is nefarious. I mean, he's more nefarious than I ever thought. I'm just saying, okay? I knew he was bad, but he's really bad. You're contacting somebody's parents, telling them to send you $20,000. The parents don't have anything to do with it. You know why he asked them for that money? To intimidate them, to let them know that I can reach you too. I can touch you. Not just your daughter. I can drag y'all into it at any given moment. I'm telling y'all right now, Diddy needs to go to damn prison. This is pissing me off. You're going to call somebody's mother and worry the hell out of them, then talk about you going to release stuff. Then why would you even want to tell that girl's mother that she was on explicit tapes? The embarrassment of it all. Clearly extortion. Exactly, beloved. Clearly extortion, Flower Lotus. Diddy is a damn devil. Diddy, your ass is going down. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. DJ Big Six said, where's her father? Her father's there. There's pictures of her and her father. But what is her father supposed to do? This isn't a regular fight. This isn't somebody pushed your child down at the playground or, threatened them and you can just go and put your dukes up. This is a whole thug who has mob-like connections with the police, the feds, bodyguards, and billions of dollars, beloved. So even if she got a father, what's he supposed to do? What's he supposed to do? He's just a regular citizen like the rest of us. All right? Unless you're a crime boss or a cartel member, you should be scared of somebody like that. Okay, if you know what's good. So I'm saying. DJ Big Six said, I'll die about mine. See, that's what Black people need to stop saying. Stop saying I'm going to die about mine, because I'm not going to die about mine. You know what I'm going to do? I'll kill for mine. That's what I'll do. Okay, you don't say I'll die about mine. Black people love to say that I'm going to die about mine, but white people say I'll kill for mine. And that's what you should do. Okay, that's what you should do. Forget dying. You're dead, you just go. And they can still be here to, keep on doing BS. Diddy is a damn devil at the end of the day. And unless you're one of those people that's ready to go for what you know, then you likely would just have to, just hope that this goes away. But you know what's even crazier? After Diddy did that stuff, reached out to her mother and father, extorting them for money for something they didn't have anything to do with. I don't know why Cassie still dealt with him. DJ Big Six said, I'm not scared to die. I'm not scared to die either. Death is nothing but a new beginning, like I always talk about on the spiritual channel. Death is an illusion. Our soul lives on forever. Our spirit lives on forever, okay? Because it's nothing but, our consciousness is eternal. That's not the point. Whether you're scared to die or not, nobody wants to, 9 times out of 10. But the bottom line is, why die? Okay, why take that route? That's not even the point, beloved. It ain't about being scared. I'm just saying, it's better the other way around, in my opinion. That's all I'm saying, honey. Okay, that's all I'm saying. DJ Big Six said, we all going to die, but to stay in that mess is ridiculous. Well, it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I mean, but that wasn't on the parents' behalf. That was Cassie who stayed in it. And it was likely due to all of the fear and all of that stuff. Gwendolyn said you heard it here first. Thank you, beloved. And thank you for your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Taylor said, where's the RICO? Taylor, you're late. If you just got here, honey, I already explained where the RICO was at the beginning of the broadcast. Please rewind. Okay, the RICO is here. They got the RICO. Diddy is going down. Some of y'all don't like it. Boy, that's too bad and oh, so sad. Diddy is going down. They have every element to prove the RICO. And that's what they're proving right now. The S trafficking of Cassie, even if they don't prove that, even if the jury says, well, you know, she was a willing participant, she did it because she wanted to, it don't matter. They still got all the elements to prove the RICO, baby, and Diddy is going down. Now, the problem is, like I said earlier, for those of you who missed it or just tuned in, I've been telling you all about something called prior bad acts. And that has already happened because Don Richard's testimony was a testimony of prior bad acts, which is prejudicial. And upon appeal, after he is convicted, because he will be, and so when he's convicted, his defense is going to come back, file an appeal, and they're going to try to get the case overturned and get him a new trial. Okay? They're going to hope they don't have to have a new trial, that they can just get it overturned. But he's going to have a new trial if it gets overturned. He's going to be doing the same thing that Harvey Weinstein is going through right now. That's how that's going to work. Okay? At the end of the day, they got it. All right? You shouldn't be bringing nobody's mom, and this ain't no condoning of that. Anybody sitting here trying to cape for Diddy at this point, you sound ignorant. Period. This man sitting up here threatening people's mothers, asking somebody's parents for $20,000. They had to go through all this, they had to take out all this trouble, had to take out a mortgage on their house or whatever she said they had to do at the end of the day, and he's got all this money. Is it the mom and dad's fault that he spent money on Cassie to be in the studio with Kid Cudi, and then Kid Cudi took his woman? Maybe if he hadn't been beating the hell out of Cassie, she wouldn't have been looking elsewhere. That's all I'm saying. Okay? This is all crazy as hell. Mel says an appeal would be a waste of taxpayers' money. He's guilty. But they're going to file an appeal. That's what it is. I mean, anybody would file an appeal. Once you get found guilty, yeah, if you have cause to file an appeal, that's what you're going to do. Because who wants to go to prison, right? Specifically 15 to life, which is exactly what he's facing. He's definitely going to file one. But it ain't going to do him no good, hopefully. Because even if it gets overturned, he's going to have a new trial. And I think in the next trial, if he has the next one, it's going to be the same thing. Okay, this is all a hot mess. Diddy, I'm telling y'all, Diddy is more nefarious than I thought. And I thought he was very, very nefarious, almost worse than anybody that you could hear of. Okay, in this day and age, as far as I'm concerned, as it pertains to all of these people. Diddy, really, y'all don't think Diddy is a serial killer? Y'all don't think this man's a serial killer? Because I do. It doesn't matter if he literally did the killings himself. All these people dying around him, and y'all don't think Diddy should be locked up? Y'all don't think Diddy should be locked the hell up? Who knows what Tupac and Biggie, had they been allowed to live, they died when they were 25 and 24 years old. Okay? Look at all they accomplished in that short span of time. Do you know what they could have become if they had lived to be Diddy's age? And he's been rich since his 20s, 30 plus years, but they're in the grave. And y'all don't think Diddy had something to do with it? Of course he did. And he got nothing for that. No consequences. I want his ass in prison. Okay, for what he did to Tupac. I'm never, and let me stop talking about it before I get emotional, because God knows, honey, I knew Tupac in real life, and I will never, that is a death I will never get over in my life. And I've hated Diddy ever since, period. Okay, that's right. Sarah said, what about the murders? Exactly. If he didn't do anything else, he at least did that. Y'all think he should be walking around free? Let's talk about it. Tupac, Biggie, Kim Porter, Erica Kennedy, Dr. Frank Ryan, Dr. Ed Winter, Craig Mack, Black Rob. All these people died around him. Heavy D, Andre Harrell, Albie Sure almost passed away. Okay, please miss me with it, honey. Diddy is a serial killer as far as I'm concerned. He ain't no better than Ted Bundy. Only thing is, Ted Bundy was hands-on. I think Diddy paid to have things done. Okay, please. All right? Please miss me with it. He needs to go down. Y'all can't make no excuse for him. Well, you can, but it ain't gonna do no good for me. Because at the end of the day, I hope he rots in hell where he belongs, because he is the devil himself. And you sitting up here calling somebody's parents trying to extort them for some damn money. These people probably were struggling already or whatever. They may not have been struggling, but who the hell has $20,000 just to give somebody at the spur of the moment? Because you sitting up here threatening their child's life. Miss me with it, okay? Miss me with it. I know some of y'all mad, but I really don't care. Let's get back into it, because here are the next updates from 4 minutes ago. AUSA says, why were you called the Punisher? Hold on, let me see if I skipped something. Hold on. Okay, so the last was when Cassie's mom, Regina Ventura, spoke about the bruises. Okay, that was 23 minutes ago. Okay, so then 14 minutes ago, AUSA said, who else was there? Regina Ventura said, D-Rock. AUSA says, is Damian Butler his government name? Regina says, he was standing between us. I tried to hit him. Sean Combs took Cassandra's car, a Jaguar. AUSA said no further questions. Judge said cross. Defense said no questions. I know the defense ain't got nothing. They got no questions for this lady. I want y'all to pay attention. What does that tell you right there? Tells me a whole lot. They got no questions. Now, here's the part that I missed. I'm sorry. This was the one right before that. This must be, I'm wondering if this is the time she called the police on him. AUSA says, well, in LA, did you call the police? Yeah, this was in 2016. Y'all remember I told you that Cassie's mom had actually called the cops on Diddy one time, and then Cassie didn't want to press any charges. Okay. Did you call the police while in LA? Regina Ventura says, yes. Sean Combs stole Cassandra's phone. They had a bitter argument outside her apartment building. She lived on the 17th floor. They argued at the roundabout. And then that's when they talk about D-Rock was there. So then AUSA says, why were you called the Punisher? Now there's nothing before that to let me know who they're talking about. This has to be somebody else on the stand. Yeah, because the defense didn't need to cross-examine her, so she's done. Now you have somebody by the name of Sheree Hayes on the stand. Okay, why were you called the Punisher? Sheree Hayes says, playing basketball on West 4th Street. AUSA says, the woman who called you, what time did she book you for? Sheree Hayes says, midnight at Trump Tower, Central Park West. Strip tease for a small group of friends. Okay, this is another S worker. AUSA says, when you got there, how did Miss Ventura appear? Sheree says, in a bathroom with nothing underneath. In a bathroom, I think it should be bathrobe. Okay, in a bathrobe with nothing underneath and a wig. I was expecting a crowd, but there was no one else. She told me she and her husband wanted to create an sexual scene with baby oil. I bet they did. Diddy's narched itself. What is it with him and this baby oil? Okay, so that's from Inner City Press. Okay, here's another one. So then AUSA says, what did she hand to you? Sheree Hayes says, $800. How was the room? Hayes says, dimly lit, electric candles, bowls of water with bottles of baby oil in them. She told me not to acknowledge her husband, not to look at him when he came out. This is some straight weirdo-ish. AUSA said, did he come out? Sheree Hayes says, yes, he was naked, but I could not see his face. It was like what a Muslim woman wears when you only see the eyes. He had a bottle of Astroglide. AUSA said, how did you recognize it? Sheree said, I use it. The purple top. Okay, this is all freaking dinky, honey. I shouldn't be reading any of this filth. I'm gonna have to burn sage when I'm done. Y'all hear this? The freaks come out at night, honey. Please pay attention. Aqua Girl Rat said, not baby oil centerpieces. DJ Big C, hold on. Hold on. Who was that said, hold on. DJ Big Six said, okay, dang, where's the report? Hold on, didn't somebody say something else? Yeah, DJ Big Six said, shiny skin glistening. Reggie said, if they had to take equity, Lord, they are struggling. Okay, exactly. Songwriter Sonny said, Diddy makes a lot of sense to me. He's the epitome of try this black man and it won't go how you're used to. Lily said they serving him karma. Okay, they serving him karma is in a golden plate. And I hope he is loving it like he loved doing some people dirty. Exactly. Okay, Dr. Doom said 20,000 is nothing to Diddy. He pays that on on his ex-workers for the freak off. Exactly. He does do that, but it's a lot for a regular person. Okay. Diane says Diddy doesn't have any good character. Actually, he's a demon, so I want him to get everything he's got coming to him. Let's just hope it's in this life and not the after. Let me tell y'all something. He's going to get it in both of them, beloved. For those of you that have been following, you already know that I told y'all the nefarious stuff Diddy gets in and allegedly conjuring up demons and all that stuff, reading the lesser keys of Solomon, using those looking at those using those demonic seals and all that stuff. Okay. Doing rituals to the Roman god Bacchus. And I knew it was something else I had to tell you all. Let me tell y'all who Diddy is. Hold on. Remember when I told y'all about that Roman stuff he was into? Diddy is the black version of Coagula. Okay, I want y'all to pay attention. Hold on. Let me just pull this up real quick. That's who he is. Diddy is a super freak and a sociopath. Hold on. This is a Roman emperor. Let me tell y'all about him. Caligula, Roman emperor. This man was obnoxious, nefarious, and just disgusting like Diddy. He would do whatever, whenever, to whoever, and however. He was violent. He was a sexual pervert and deviance and all of that. And he died from syphilis. Yeah, he died from syphilis. Diddy's got herpes, okay? Yeah. This man was sick, and that's who Diddy reminds me of. And interesting thing is, Diddy's into all that Roman stuff. See, y'all heard it. You all heard it in one of the articles I read to you the other day when they talked about the Bacchanalias. I told y'all that 2 years ago, that Diddy was having Bacchanalias. He's just calling them freak-offs, okay? These were parties full of orgies and illegal substances and alcohol and all this stuff, like wine and all that. And people would just do all this freaky deaky stuff. Now, when they initially started having these in the days of ancient Rome, well, they basically were for women. And then they started inviting the men. And then they got rid of it because it got so violent. You see, it got so violent. That's damn sure what Diddy was doing, because Cassie was doing all of that stuff, and then it started getting too violent. Diddy is Caligula. I'm sorry. That's exactly who the hell he is. All right? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Now, let me see what CNN is reporting. Mail said Tootsie Roll is going down. Exactly. Tootsie Roll sure is. Okay? Diddy is done. Okay, y'all can love it or hate it. Hold on, here's the latest. Okay, so Sheree Hayes continued describing his first encounter with Diddy. Sean Diddy Combs at Trump International Hotel in New York City. Ventura greeted him at the door. She greeted him at the door in a robe when he arrived, and he believed that she was also wearing a wig. He did not recognize her at the time. Ventura invited him into the suite, and she explained that she didn't want him to actually dance. She told him her and her husband would like to create an sexy scene involving the application of baby oil, and that her husband eventually would come out to watch. Ventura told him to ignore her husband. I was specifically told not to acknowledge her husband, try not to look at him, no communication or anything. After explaining the situation, Ventura handed him a stack of cash and said that he could change into underwear or a towel in the bathroom. He counted $800 in cash, then slipped into a towel. Let me tell y'all something. These men, honey, they must have been those kind of dudes. I mean, I know some of these strippers be doing whatnot and doing whatever. But at the end of the day, you show up, think you're going to do a strip tease, and then somebody wants sex while somebody else watches, and they're giving you about $800. I'm surprised some of them didn't just say no. Okay, but I guess they all wanted the money, and this is all nefarious. Trayvon said if Diddy would have played Gladiator, at least he would have got his hands dirty in the right way. Okay, I'm done with you. I'm done with you, Trayvon, okay? Dr. Doom said 800 is a cheap male whore compared to the others. How much would you charge, Dr. Doom, beloved? How much you charging these days? What's the going rate? Lily said the same thing. These were some cheap hoes. I think they probably thought that was a lot for them. Because back in the day, it was 250, according to sources. All right. Y'all need to sit down somewhere. This is all interesting. It's all so interesting. Rev it up, Gororo said Timu. Poetical Wind said, pay what you weigh, LOL. Okay. Oh, hell no. I said, imagine being called a garden tool by the queen. TC Dan said, I'm sitting down, queen. Elizabeth said, Timu escorts. Y'all are terrible. Sheila said, inflation cost. Some of y'all have too much information on this stuff. I have questions. Okay. Reggie said, an attractive challenge. I am so done. How many of you guys in the chat, if y'all had gone there, Trayvon said, I actually like Danity Kane. I never really listened to him. I never really listened to them or Dirty Money. I never really listened to Diddy's artists like that, except for Loon. I used to like Loon and Mace. Mama Justin said, these S workers are not even upper echelon. $800. Reggie said, right, $250 an hour. Exactly. That's what it used to be back in the day. Okay. This is all nefarious at the end of the day. Elizabeth said, Queen, $1,000 an hour. Dr. Doom said he'd give Cassie a golden shower for $500. Claudette said, at least they were bigger than a Tootsie Roll. Oh, y'all are terrible. Okay. Look at Reggie talking about shorter pics again. Listen, I don't even think that I should be having this conversation. Y'all are absolutely nefarious. Hold on. Yeah, I was thinking about that too, Reggie. Reggie must be reading my mind this morning because I literally was thinking about that. Let me pull these pictures back up. I deleted them from my email last night, I'm pretty sure. Here they go right here. Hold on. Where's the pictures of those nefarious S workers? Oh, I do have it on my I do have it on my Twitter account. Hold on. Is this it? Hold on, guys. Ugh. This is a lot. This is absolutely a lot. Hold on. Where is it? Instagram, because I had an Instagram post. Let me give you all some smooth sounds to listen to while I'm looking for this real quick.
Lights shining down in the moonlight, girl, can't help but feel this connection flow with every move. Too long floor where you smile. Makes me want more. Heartbeat and sing. The sound of soul. Tonight we dance. Just lose control. I can't resist the way you move. It's little bliss. Your power is crazy. Like the stars above. This night is ours. Wrapped in our love. The band is playing. Our melody sweet. Can't help but feel the rhythm in my feet. Even like that. Like the record spin. All of the dance. Where we both live. You got that groove. But don't worry. Here's a little bit of sound.
Okay, enough of that. I don't know why I can't find it. I'm gonna have to go to my X account because I have it on there. I know I shared all of them, but I don't know if that one has all their names and stuff on there. Now I looked it up with TMZ, but they only have like 4 or 5 of them. I want all of them. The one I showed you all last night had all of them. Maybe I sent it to this other email. Hold on, let me check real quick. This is all, it's in here somewhere. What is this? I don't know why it's not in my deleted emails because I could have sworn I deleted it last night. Let me just go to X. Let me just go to my X account and pull it up real quick. Here they go. I mean, they don't look like much. They don't look like much. They just look like some regular dudes. I didn't see anything special about any of them, in my opinion. There they go. There they go. Can y'all see them? They all just look basic to me. I don't see anything special. What y'all think? All right. So that's right. That Crazy Beach Air said regular schmegler. I agree. I agree. Now let me go back to Inner City Press and see what they have going on here. Okay, nothing so far. Nothing so far. Let's go live to the trial. I mean, live outside the courthouse. Okay, so Fox, I think they're giving some updates. Let's go to that. I'm gonna look for the bigger pictures.
And we are going to get them answered for you. So we appreciate you joining us right here. Day 7. And this is supposed to last 8 weeks or so. I'm very curious because Cassie, of course, has been billed as the star witness. She has concluded her testimony. You know, we don't really know exactly who is.
Listen, beloveds, they are going to break. They're going to break. So y'all know how I do. I go to break when they go to break, okay? But I'm going to give you all this last update before we do. And don't forget that today is probably going to end the court at 3 or 3:30 like they did yesterday. The judge is going to be leaving, closing the court out early this week, okay, rather than staying till 5 like normal. They normally do. So here's the thing. They say, this is from, hold on. Okay, so this is from 5 minutes ago. Testifying about the first encounter he had with Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie Ventura, Sheree Hayes said that he followed Ventura's lead and mimicked what she did. Okay, Hayes said that when Ventura began to pour oil on herself, he did too. Eventually, he saw a man enter the room. Hayes recalled that Combs would speak to Ventura, giving subtle directions, including adjustments that he wanted to the lighting and to how her body was positioned. Hayes said that at the end of the encounter, Ventura thanked him and handed him an additional $1,200. Oh, he was glad to get that. That's $2,000. Okay, that's $2,000. Now, Sheree Hayes testifying about his first encounter or interaction with Cassie Ventura and Sean Combs at the Trump International Hotel in New York City, said that he didn't know the man in the room was Combs. On another occasion, when he joined Combs and Ventura at the hotel, he testified that the TV displayed a message. It said the Essex House would like to welcome Mr. Sean Combs. Hayes said he was a fan of Combs and already followed him on social media at the time. After he saw the TV message, Hayes recognized Ventura from photos of the couple. Hayes joined the couple for similar interactions about 8 to 12 times in total. Okay, now the jury's dismissed for lunch. Okay, they'll dismiss until lunch till 1 p.m. And then he'll continue with his testimony afterwards, and then we'll wait for the cross. Okay, so that's it right there. We're going to go, it's 12:40, so I'll be back at 1:15. Okay, I'll be back at 1:15. I'm going to go ahead and post the next one. Okay, Rich said, I wonder if he sounded like his records. Good question. Okay, so anyway, I hope you all are enjoying this thus far. It's getting juicy, and I'm here for it. Time's going by fast today. Can y'all believe it's already been over 3 hours? That's amazing, because time is really going quick. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, I hope you all are enjoying it, and I hope to see you all back at 1:15. Right? Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
With that gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece. This time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got